When she first saw her at Mega's tower, she felt the intense bond between mother and child. She finally saw the child that had been taken away from her by force. The little fellow had grown into a pretty little lady. However, the little fellow knew neither who she was nor who her mother was. This made her feel a little depressed. However, for her safety, she could only choose to keep it from her. Now, she was actually holding this little fellow like a mother, and this little fellow even asked her to be her mother. This all felt very miraculous. Seeing that Irina remained silent, Amy continued hard selling her father. Other than being a good cook, father is also very nice and gentlemanly. Also, I'll let you in on a little secret. He is actually a very, very powerful knight. If you marry him, you would be very safe. He can protect us. I know. He is very impressive. Irina nodded. Amy smiled. Her father was great indeed. She didn't seem to need to praise him much. I want to know. Little Amy, why do you want me to be your mother? Don't you miss your mother? Irina asked Amy gently as her left hand clutched the blanket nervously. I miss her too. Father said that she is a very beautiful elf who had gone to the moon, and he doesn't know when she'll be back. But I've secretly asked Big Sister Bablat, and she said that there are no elves on the moon, so I can be certain that father was lying to me. Amy's mother is not on the moon at all. Amy pouted her little mouth with grievance. Irina was filled with self-reproach and felt apologetic towards Amy. Although there are many pretty big sisters in the restaurant, father always seems very lonely. I think he likes you because there are little stars in his eyes when he looks at you. It's different from when he looks at other big sisters. Amy smiled again. She touched Irina's cheek gently with her little hand. Also, I love you too. When I dream of my mother, she would look just like you. It would be great if big sister Irina can be my other. Father would be very happy too. Irina was also full of smiles when she saw Amy smiling. She pretended to think for a while, and said, "That's a request that's really hard to reject. Then agree to it and you can enjoy father's cooking for free in the future." Another bowl of tofu pudding. Amy enticed her as she blinked her big eyes. I cannot accept him so easily. I'll have to see how well he performs. Irina shook her head. However, she smiled again very quickly and kissed Amy's forehead. She put her forehead against Amy's and said, "But, I will allow little Amy to call me mother when there's no one around." Really? Amy's eyes lit up. Of course. Irina nodded. Then, can I do it now? Yes. Mother. Yes. Mother. Yes. Mother. 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 Yes, yes, yes. That's great, Amy has a mother too. Amy kissed Irina's cheek and then jumped out from her embrace as she jumped happily on the bed with an excited smile. Irina looked at Amy and felt a tingling sensation in her nose. She was also beaming with joy. From today onwards, I will always be by your side. No one will be able to bully you, Irina thought to herself. Amy jumped for a while and went back to Irina's embrace. She looked up slightly, and said, "Mother, go to sleep then, I won't disturb you." After that, she closed her eyes obediently. All right. Irina cuddled Amy carefully for fear that she would hurt her if she used too much strength, yet she wanted to hold her a little tighter at the same time. Although it felt a little awkward, her heart was at peace, and she fell asleep very quickly. Meanwhile, Amy opened her eyes slowly and took a sneak peek at Irina. She looked left and right, and felt that no matter how she looked at her, her mother was the most beautiful person in this world, just like a dream. Mia and Elizabeth returned to Mamie restaurant with Gina after sending the people from Lantist back to the boundless sea realm. Mag, who was re-energized after a nap, poured the three of them some water, and asked, "Did everything go smoothly?" "Yes. Nothing happened on the way." Mia took a big gulp of water as she nodded. "That's great. It's been hard on you today. Take a break, and we will have hot pot and barbecue for dinner tonight to celebrate the successful mission, and to welcome Firas and Shirley back, Mag said with a smile. I'm going to soak in my bathtub for a while, Gina said. When she walked past Mag, she wanted to give Mag a big hug. Gina, it's been tough on you today. Go soak in your fish tank for a while. Your tail is already out, Mag said with a smile as he glanced at the fish tail that emerged from under her skirt, and avoided Gina's hug of death skillfully. Irina was upstairs at that moment, so he had to watch his every word and every action. He could never do anything to make her misunderstand. It really is out. Gina glanced at her tail and rushed upstairs in quick, small steps. Although she had completely adapted to living on land, her tail would still appear when she was exhausted. However, all she needed was a good sleep back in the bathtub, and it would all be fine. Not long after, Firas, Bablat, and the others returned. Connie had a scarf wrapped several times around her head, and the moment she entered, she curiously asked, I heard that Princess Irina is in the restaurant? Can I get her autograph? Princess Irina is in the restaurant. Yabimiya and Elizabeth, who were sitting at the side, were both shocked. They looked around, but did not see her anywhere. She's sleeping with Amy upstairs. Mag tried to say it as calmly as he could. However, why did it sound like he was saying his wife was taking an afternoon nap with his daughter? Even though that might be the case, this was not the right time to let the cat out of the bag. Indeed, when they heard Mag's words, everyone's expression changed. Upon hearing Firas's words, everyone no longer seemed so confused. Since she put it that way, there did not seem to be a problem. Besides, they saw Alex with their eyes today. He was the man riding on a griffin, a completely different kind of person compared to Mag. Go take a seat for a while more. We'll start dinner when everyone's back, Mag said, and turned to walk into the kitchen to prepare for the hot pot and barbecue. That was such a great nap. Irina opened her eyes and stretched with a smile. She could finally relax and have a good rest in the comfort of a soft and warm bed after being so tense for months. It was great to feel mentally and physically satisfied. Suddenly, she felt movement beside her. She turned her head to take a look and saw Amy looking back at her with her large eyes and a sweet smile. Mother, you are really beautiful, Amy complimented. Little Amy has great taste. Irina nodded with a smile. There was nothing more blissful than being able to wake up with Amy in her arms and hear her compliment her. Growl. Just then, both their stomachs grumbled. They exchanged glances and laughed out loud at the same time. All right, let's get some food. Irina got up, and her long silver hair that reached her calves flowed down like a waterfall. Sleeping did not seem to make her hair lose its softness and luster. She picked Amy up from the bed, and helped her get changed clumsily. Mother, can you tie my hair up into a bun? Amy asked Irina as she scratched her messy head and sat on the bed. A bun? Irina looked at Amy with bewilderment. It's like tying your hair up into a bun. Amy pointed at her head, and continued, Father is really good at it. Don't you know how to do it? Who says? I'm way better than him, Irina said confidently. She could not lose to Mag when it came to hair tying. It's just a bun on top of the head. Will it really look good? Irina was a little dubious of Mag's beauty standards. I'm ready. Amy sat properly with her little dressing box in her arms. Irina smoothed Amy's soft hair, and asked, Does little Amy want a big bun or a small bun? You can even make a big bun. Amy was shocked. Father had always tied a small bun for her, and she never had a big bun before. Of course, I am invincible. Irina nodded confidently. Then I want a big bun. I love big buns. Amy nodded as she looked at her reflection expectantly through the mirror. If it's a big bun, Irina was slightly hesitant before her 10 long fingers started fiddling around on Amy's head. Father, does my big bun look good? Amy shouted to Mag as she ran down the stairs and into the kitchen. What? Mag, who was about to taste his soup, turned around and looked at Amy, who had a huge hollow bun resting on the top of her head like a bird's nest. His hand shook and the soup spilled. What kind of surreal hairstyle is this? Meow. When it heard Amy's voice, Ugly Duckling, which was taking a nap on the counter, opened its eyes and jumped as it looked at Amy with its fur bristling. When everyone else saw Amy's new hairstyle, they were also shocked. They'd never seen Boss do up such a wild hairstyle for Amy before. Mag was thinking about how to comment on that impressive bird's nest-like hairstyle. After all, not everyone could pull off such a hairstyle, much less the cute Amy. I was the one who did it for little Amy, Irina said as she arrived at the kitchen door. She was a little proud, and a little nervous. Mag looked at Irina, who seemed very proud of her work, and swallowed the words that he was about to blurt out. He quickly squeezed out a sincere smile, and told Amy, "It's really beautiful. It's better than the little bun I do up for you. I'm sure the birds would love it if you went out." Wow, big sister Irina is good indeed. Amy turned to look at Irina with little stars sparkling in her eyes. Piece of cake. I can do it for you anytime as long as you like it. Irina smiled. It was indeed satisfying to be able to receive little Amy's compliment. She glanced at Mag gently. Mag turned back to continue tasting his soup. He heaved a long sigh of relief. Luckily I'm witty enough not to blurt things out. So it's Princess Irina who did it. Everyone suddenly didn't find the hairstyle so weird. This might just be the latest fashion in the Wind Forest. Although it did look a little weird, it was still justifiable since the Wind Forest was very close to nature. Ferris looked at Irina in shock. Her Highness left her hair down precisely because she did not want to tie it up. Her hair, which had been kissed by the god of life, would not tangle up or fall. Your Highness, I am your loyal fan. I've been idolizing you ever since I was young. Can I please have your autograph? Connie dashed over in an instant, and stopped in front of Irina. She gave a 90-degree bow, and passed her a piece of paper and a pen. An orc? A Catwoman? Irina looked at Connie's slightly trembling pink ears, and could not help but reach over to give it a slight pinch. NGH. Connie, who was still bending over, whimpered. Her legs went jelly, and she fell to the ground right in front of Irina. She looked up at Irina with a reddened face and watery eyes as she panted slightly. Has she practiced it before? How can she fall so skillfully? Irina retracted her hand and looked at Connie with interest. This little fellow was quite interesting. It was as though there was a switch on her ear that would make her fall when it was pinched. She was even more curious when she saw her kitten ears turn even pinker, and she asked, "What would happen if I blew into your ear?" No one could overshadow her, not even Alex. She was still that elf princess, not just Alex's woman. If you like it, you can touch it all you want, Connie said expectantly as she moved her ears closer to Irina with a blush. Then I'll go ahead. Irina reached out to press Connie's ear again. It was soft and warm, and every time she pressed on it, she would let out a little squeak. It was really quite fun. The kitten-eared woman was successfully tamed? Mag raised his eyebrow. He looked at how Irina made Connie squeal and whimper, and he fell into deep thoughts. Something seemed off? Connie's living the life. I must think of a way too. Babla watched enviously as Irina caresses Connie. She had also become Irina's die-hard fan. Her Highness looks even more beautiful up close, just like a goddess. Yabimiya looked at Irina enviously. You're a princess too. You don't have to be envious of her, Elizabeth whispered by Mia's ear as she placed her hand gently on her shoulder. I just want to be a server. I don't think I can become a good princess. Mia shook her head, but she did not look down. Instead, she seemed quite content. Elizabeth looked at Yabimiya, and a smile appeared on her icy face. That's fine too. Mamie restaurant is a pretty good pace. Where's little Bat? After playing with Connie's ears for a while, Irina started searching for Camilla. She is a mature woman who likes SM. That's pretty interesting. Camilla said that she had something on tonight, so she wouldn't be coming, Babla answered. I see. Irina was still a little sorry for knocking her out before understanding the entire situation. Mag pushed out a little trolley from the kitchen, and put the pot in the middle of the table before calling everyone over to take their seats. All right, let's eat. Let's have hot pot first. After that, I'll grill some kebabs for everyone. What's this? Do you cook and eat it immediately? Irina asked as she looked at the hot pot strangely. Ferris and Shirley were also a little curious. They had yet to see the hot pot. This is hot pot. When the soup in the pot comes to a boil, put the ingredients into the pot. Mag took out the hot pot manual, and passed it to the three of them before explaining to them in detail how to eat hot pot. Where there was hot pot and barbecue, there had to be beer. There was a huge wooden keg at the side, and other than the 4 children, everyone's mug was filled with beer. Children can drink too in the Orc tribe, Connie protested as she shook the fruit juice in her cup. Don't you still have to ride at night to look for your master? Mag put a dun duck intestine in Amy's bowl. This amount of alcohol won't affect my learning. I am a good drinker, Connie declared. I was referring to drunk driving. Mag shook his head, and calmly said, safety first. You should not drink and drive. Connie looked resentfully at Mag as she took a big sip of her fruit juice. Babla also drank her fruit juice. The fruit juice tasted better when there was someone drinking it with her. Mag cooked some tripes, and put them into Amy's bowl. Irina, who was sitting beside Amy, glanced at the tripes, and then looked at Mag. Mag suddenly paused. He looked at Amy, and then at Irina. He could already feel a sense of jealousy. They had not publicly disclosed their identities, so it did not seem appropriate for him to cook tripe for Irina. However, it didn't seem very appropriate for him to only cook the food for Amy. This is too difficult. Big sister Irina hasn't had hot pot before. Father, this tripe must be for her. I'll help you pass it to her. Amy, who was sitting between the two of them, picked the tripe up with her chopsticks and put it in Irina's bowl. After that, she smilingly said, tripe is super delicious. Then I'll have to thank Boss Mag for his hospitality, Irina said to Mag with a smile as she emphasized the words Boss Mag. You're welcome. Mag wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Luckily Amy was quick-witted. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known how to clear up the mess. Amy glanced at Mag and gave him the I can only help you so much look. Mag was embarrassed. It was not his style to need a child to help him pick girls up. Irina tried the tripe. It was fragrant and spicy. The crunching sounds were like the beautiful music played by her teeth, bringing her immense satisfaction. This tripe is delicious. It was very thin, so she finished it quickly. Irina then looked at Mag expectantly. I'll teach you how to do it. Pick up a piece of tripe and put it in the boiling soup. Wait for 1 second, and lift it out of the soup. Cool it down for 1 second, and then put it back into the soup. Do this 7 times, and that's how you get the best out of the tripe. Mag put the tripe into Irina's bowl, and said, try it. Irina put the tripe in her mouth, and enjoyed the sensation of the taste exploding on the tip of her tongue. She smiled with satisfaction and nodded. It's just as good. But I didn't have a good look just now. Can you please show me again? In that case, I'll have to show you again. Mag smiled. He cooked another piece of tripe, and put it in Irina's bowl. How do you cook this, then? This is beef. Put this in the soup as well, but this takes a shorter time compared to tripe. What about this thing with holes? This is sliced lotus root. You need to cook this for a longer time. Everyone sitting at the table watched with a weird expression as Mag taught Irina step by step, cooking all the ingredients on the table and putting them in her bowl. There didn't seem to be anything wrong with it. One of them was a princess who never did things herself, while the other was a warm and welcoming restaurant owner. However, Connie turned and whispered to Babla, "Why do I smell a weird sour smell?" "I smell it too." Babla nodded. She lowered her head to smell her dipping sauce. "Did I put too much vinegar?" Mag put 2 slices of potatoes into Irina's bowl with a smile, and asked, "Got it?" I got it." Irina took a bite of the potato and smiled with satisfaction. "But I think I'm full." One smelling vinegar refers to sensing jealousy. Everyone watched Mag and Irina, and they all rolled their eyes. Although they had not eaten anything, for some strange reason, they felt full. Amy nodded as she looked at Mag gladly as though she was very satisfied with her father's performance. "You guys go ahead. I'll make some kebabs." Mag stood up and went to the kitchen with a smile hanging on his face. Irina still had the innocence of a young girl. The night belonged to everyone from Mamie restaurant. There was hot pot, barbecue, and an unlimited supply of beer. They had been through separation, and were finally reunited again. They were strangers from all walks of life who became friends because of Mamie restaurant. Perhaps one could call this fate. Yabimiya, whose face was flushed red, raised her hand as she said, "I like Mamie restaurant. I like everyone. I want to stay here forever with everyone." Before she could even finish her words, she fell into Elizabeth's arms, drunk. Elizabeth's face was also slightly red, but she was still sober. She held Yabimiya as she looked at her fondly. If she could continue living happily like this, it would not be that bad to stay in Mamie restaurant. "Get drunk, all of you. I will bring each one of you back after this." Babla propped her chin up on her hand as she chewed on the beef. Although she could not drink, she was still happy to have an unlimited supply of beef kebabs. "If I returned to Moon Nation, I wouldn't be able to enjoy such delicious beef kebab anymore. Should I return if the teleportation portal is fixed?" Babla was in a dilemma. Although there was no one here to serve her, and she also could not enjoy being held in high regard by tens of thousands of people, her life here was still pretty interesting. There was good food for her to eat every day, and she also had friends who saw her as their equal. This was way more interesting than being in the palace at Moon Nation. "Let's end here today. Everyone's a little drunk. Go back and have a good rest. I'll clean up," Mag told all the tipsy women as he passed the last kebab to Amy. He felt as though he had underestimated their drinking capabilities. They actually managed to finish every single drop of the 50-liter beer keg. I'm not drunk." Gina, whose fishtail had already come out, stood up unsteadily and turned around to look for Mag. After finding him, she stumbled over to him and gave him a silly smile as she loudly said in Lantist's language, "Mr. Mag. I like you." After that, she closed her eyes and fell towards Mag. The beer mug in her hand fell straight towards the floor. Mag caught the mug with one hand, and Gina's waist with the other nimbly, preventing her head from knocking into the corner of the table. "Whew!" Mag heaved a sigh of relief as he looked at the sleeping Gina. Thank goodness he was quick enough. "What did she just say?" Irina asked in a daze as she stood up with her beer mug and looked at Mag hold on to Gina. Mag froze instantaneously. Although Gina's words could not be taken seriously, because she was drunk, that was not something to be repeated. However, he quickly realized that Irina could not understand the Lantist language. He was the only one in this entire restaurant who could understand it. Therefore, he quickly went back to normal, and smilingly said, "She said she's drunk, and got me to bring her back upstairs to sleep." "Really?" Irina frowned as she studied Mag's face. "She's still staying in the fish tank upstairs. Since everyone else is drunk, I'm the only one who could help her up," Mag said calmly. "Then go ahead." Irina nodded. She knew about Gina staying in the restaurant during her previous trip here. Besides, Gina was really drunk. Mag picked Gina up horizontally, and ensured the gap of a fist between the two of them as she carried her up in a gentlemanly way. After turning at the staircase, Mag let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness he was quick enough. Otherwise, he might be in for a round of beating and suffering tonight. After opening the door, Mag put Gina gently into the big fish tank. Gruel, the moment Gina entered the water, her fishtail started bubbling. The bubbles joined together into a chain, as though the bubbles from all the beer that she had drunk were coming out from her tail. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Mag observed for a while, and only left after making sure that Gina would not choke on her vomit. Yabimiya and the rest had left, and the dining table was cleaned. Irina turned her head to ask Mag, "Look, did I do a good job cleaning?" Mag looked at the bowls and plates that were clean but poorly stacked and raised his brow. However, when he saw the expectant look on Irina's face, he smiled and nodded as he said, "It's perfect. This is too simple. There's no challenge in it at all." Irina might look relaxed, but she could not hide the happiness in her eyes. Mag went up and looked at Irina as he said, "Yet. It's such a waste to have you do this job. The position of the restaurant's lady boss happens to be empty. Are you interested to consider the role?" Amy, who was squatting at the side with Ugly Duckling in her arms, brightened up. "Wow, has father finally got some sense knocked into him?" Amy mumbled to Ugly Duckling. "Lady boss." Irina chuckled as she looked at Mag and said, "Beg me. There are many young ladies eyeing this position." "It'll be gone if you miss it," Mag said with a smile in his eyes. "There are many men eyeing me. If you miss it, I'll belong to someone else." Irina smiled. Mag raised his brow. They were in the midst of deciding who held the power in the family. Therefore, for the sake of his status in the family, he should never bow down so easily. He had to. "Father, just give in. You can't outfight big sister Irina anyway," Amy said seriously. Mag was stumped for words in an instant. That was the cold hard truth said by his daughter. He did not deserve to have any status in this family. Amy walked over to Irina with Ugly Duckling in her arms. She nudged Irina's hand with her head, and happily said, "Besides, big sister Irina had already agreed to be Amy's mother." Mag looked at Irina in shock. Some people just didn't seem sincere. Irina hugged little Amy and let out a soft sigh as she said, "It seems like little Amy would be sleeping with me from now onwards." Mag looked at the mother and daughter duo, and while he was shocked that Irina had already come clean with Amy, he also felt a little self-reproachful. He had been restraining himself ever since he came to this world because whether it was the vengeance Alex was carrying or this world that was slowly getting chaotic, they could all crush him and Amy very easily. He had become stronger after Mamie Restaurant started, but it was still insufficient in the face of all his enemies. Therefore, he had to be even more careful with his words. He had to carefully erase any links Alex might have with Mamie Restaurant, including Irina. Amy had asked him about her mother several times, and he merely spun up a fairy tale for her. Even after they met Irina in Rodu, he still did not tell Amy that Irina was her mother. Now that he thought about it, he really could not be considered a good father or a good husband. He was living too cautiously and carefully. He had been suppressing his feelings, and had also been trying to get Amy to suppress her feelings. This 4-year-old child was right in front of her mother, yet he still wanted to continue keeping it from her. What a terrible father! Irina looked at Mag and seemed to have guessed his thoughts. With a smile, she said, "Little Amy is a very smart child." "Yes, little Amy is the smartest child I've ever seen." Mag nodded. He looked at Amy, who was also smiling. "Yes, much smarter than someone else." Irina glanced at Mag and carried Amy up the stairs. "Little Amy, let's go upstairs to sleep." "Wait," Mag suddenly called out. He reached out to the side to get the bouquet of blue roses that system delivered in real time. Irina turned around and looked at Mag. When Irina saw the huge bouquet of blue roses in Mag's hands, she was surprised. When did he prepare the flowers? Beautiful elf lady, I wonder if you are willing to become the lady boss of Mamie restaurant. Mag went down on one knee and handed her the flower. Wow, the flowers are beautiful. Please say yes, mother, Amy said. Irina looked at Mag, who was kneeling on one knee, looking back at her with clear and passionate eyes. The fragrance of the flowers wafted over as the roses gleamed under the light. She felt a sour sting in her nose as tears started welling up in her eyes. It had been 3 years. She had been living these 3 years where she lost them in despair every day. There was no one for her to depend on, and vengeance was the only thing that kept her going all these while. Right now, the family of 3 had finally reunited again. Then, Irina sniffed. She reached for the bouquet and lifted her chin up slightly as she said in a cocky way, I will accept it. That's great. This way we are a family. Amy clapped her little hands merrily. She didn't think that her father would be able to get her mother so quickly. From today onwards, she would be a child with a father and a mother. That was simply bliss. Mag stood up, and hugged both Irina and Amy. The 3 of them had their heads together as they smiled happily. No one can ever separate our family again, Mag thought to himself firmly. Irina rested her forehead against Mag's, and felt the fear and emptiness she had inside completely filled with the peace and happiness she got from the warmth of the family. Mag was also smiling because of his successful proposal just now. He was certain that he had already fallen in love with Irina. The innocent elf, the cute and kind woman, the strong and resilient queen. No woman had been able to attract him so much in both worlds, and made him want to protect her and want her. She was not under his control. She had her thoughts and the things she stood for. This was the lover that he really wanted. Although I've agreed to be the lady boss, as of now, I am only the lady boss. Irina looked at Mag and warned, as for other things, it'll have to depend on your performance. All right, lady boss. Mag nodded immediately. As for his status in the family, or the patriarchy, were all those important? What are other things? Amy asked curiously. Irina and Mag were caught off guard by her sudden question. They exchanged looks and smiled at the same time. You reek of hot pot now. Irina changed the topic. She sniffed Amy's hair. So does your hair. Give me a moment. I'll prepare a bath for you. Have a bath before you sleep. Mag cleared the silverware quickly, and went upstairs to the master bedroom to fill the bathtub with warm water. This is a rather huge bathtub. Irina bent down and scooped some water in her hand. She lifted her head to look at Mag. Her collar hung slightly low and her fair skin was exposed. Actually, I should also, Mag unbuttoned one of his shirt buttons. You can take a bath before you sleep too. Next door. Irina straightened back up and pointed to the door with a naughty smile. All right. Mag buttoned his shirt obediently. After that, he squatted down to kiss little Amy on her forehead and said with a smile, Little Amy, you have to be good tonight. I won't be telling you a bedtime story today. Good night, my precious. Good night, father. Amy kissed Mag on his cheek and then whispered in his ear, I will put in a lot of good words for you in front of mother. Good girl. Mag stroked Amy's head with a smile. He already had such a precious daughter, what more could he ask for? What are you whispering about? Irina looked at both of them. Amy pouted, and jealously said, Father told me to take good care of mother. He's so biased. I am the baby here. All right, I will take care of you. Irina carried Amy and rolled her eyes at Mag, but she could not hide the tiny smile at the corner of her lips. What a pro at picking girls up. Mag looked at Amy with an admiring gaze. This little fellow could be so harsh at times and so sweet other times. He should learn from her. Rest early, then. Your pajama is on the bed. There's also a set of new clothes in the wardrobe that you can wear tomorrow, Mag said before turning to exit the bathroom. He placed the pajamas that the system just sent over by the bed, and then opened the wardrobe to make sure that the dress he custom-made for Irina was already inside before he closed the bedroom door behind him. System, let me take a look at the parameters of a flying restaurant, Mag said inside as he lay on the mattress next door. The thrusters are using the vision of one of your country's science fiction authors. If we magnify it, we could propel the Earth forward theoretically. Of course, I have improved upon it. It uses nuclear power instead of burning rocks. The system's smug voice sounded. It's really extravagant to use this to propel a restaurant. Mag was left speechless. It was a pity that he didn't catch that movie. He had transmigrated soon after he watched the trailer 1. Is this supposed to be the flying mode? Mag asked again. The restaurant could switch to flying mode in 3 seconds, take off in 5 seconds, and its Mach 1 acceleration time is 10 seconds. This is the regular mode. Let's switch to the flying mode and see how it is, Mag said in his heart. Flying mode switching in progress. The restaurant's model began to change and become round all over. The lower end became bigger and protruding, while the upper end became narrow. It looked like a water droplet, and thrusters were placed all over. Damn, this aircraft is rather ugly. Mag raised his brow slightly. He found that water droplet-shaped restaurant a little familiar. This is the Flying Accommodation's latest model. It combines the most advanced aviation technology. It still has very generous space to operate while achieving the highest speed limit. For example, this and this, then, Mag saw a shooting star dashing around in his mind. Okay. You can stop your boring showing off now. Mag rolled his eyes. His eyes were already dazzled. This system always gave him a headache. Mag clicked on the interior of the restaurant to have a closer look. The restaurant's interior structure was very similar to Mamie Restaurant now, but it had a button to switch its decoration style. The host can change the restaurant's style according to your mission's requirements so the restaurant can blend into the local environment better, the system swiftly explained. This is a rather practical function. Mag nodded. Even though he had no idea what sort of missions the system was going to give him, this was equivalent to giving the restaurant an ability to be versatile. It was going to save him quite a bit on renovation. After coming out of the restaurant's interface, Mag began to close his eyes and rest. His body was severely exhausted after that 15-minute showdown today. Waves of tiredness washed him as soon as he lay down. The city lord's castle. We've already verified that 2 employees of Mamie Restaurant had returned. Moreover, Irina had both lunch and dinner at the restaurant, Roland said to Michael softly. After a moment of pondering, Michael asked Roland, "What do you think about this? Rankster's daughter is at Mamie Restaurant right now, and the half-dragon maiden seemed to have awakened the blood of golden dragons successfully a while ago. She was also given special care by Jinx, so she should already have the ability to transform. You're saying that the 2 giant dragons that appeared at the underground cavern are that 2 service staff members from Mamie Restaurant, and the appearance of those mysterious people was connected to Mamie Restaurant too?" Michael furrowed his brows. "Actually, we should have noticed sooner. Mag is a very mysterious person. Although some evidence hinted that he was a young master in exile from a down-and-out family in Rodu, yesterday Grey Temple had caught a thief who said that particular young master in exile had died at the door of Mamie Restaurant some time ago. But, both Grey Temple and the city lord's castle didn't receive any report regarding this." Roland's lips curled. Even though he didn't mention Mag's trip to Rodu led others to believe that he was that young master in exile. Could this be purely a coincidence? "Who do you think he is?" Michael asked in a lowered voice as he stared into Roland's eyes. 4 years ago, the demons, the Magus Tower, and the elves came together and set up a trap to kill Alex and maimed him. News of his death came out not long after. 3 years later, Alex reappeared again. He killed the spatial demon, Benson, with his peak power and saved Irina. He declared his return with an additional mask on his face. Furthermore, very coincidentally, Mag happened to be at Rodu under the Wrath King's invitation. An ordinary restaurant owner was suddenly concerned about the continent's affairs, and asked us to help the Night Elves because of the restaurant's service staff. And after we rejected, Alex appeared at the underground cavern battlefield and slaughtered Borg. Soon after, a golden dragon and a frost dragon came with hundreds of mysterious powerhouses and repelled the Wind Forest army. Moreover, we seem to have forgotten something. Alex does have his own name. Mag Alex is his full name, Roland said in a low voice as he, too, stared into Michael's eyes. The secret chamber fell into silence. Only the lights from the oil lamps were flickering. Are you sure? Michael's voice was a little hoarse. He suddenly felt dryness in his throat. If Amy is Mag and Irina's daughter, this could explain why the elves wanted to kill Alex together with the demons and the Magus Tower. The elf queen could never be allowed to have a human's child. Alex changed his face and became the chef, Mag, in Chaos City. Everything is reasonable now. But, how did Alex become Boss Mag? It's already a miracle that he could recover from the horrific injuries. Moreover, he had to achieve amazing culinary skills in 3 years' time. Isn't this the biggest loophole? Michael shook his head, still not very convinced. Since he's Alex, what is impossible? Roland asked instead. Michael choked on his words as he couldn't find a single word to disagree with him. The secret chamber descended into silence again. Then, what do we do now? Tell the whole world, or simply confront him right away? Michael asked. Although Mag didn't acknowledge it himself, as what Roland said, it was already very close to the truth. Neither of these two choices are beneficial to us. Roland shook his head and smiled. Since Alex's ideals are similar to ours and he chose to stand with us, why should we make everything so clear? A venomous snake that is hidden in the dark could give its enemies a deadly strike much more easily. What we should do now is to hide him even better and help him clean his tracks. This is a good idea. Michael smiled and nodded. The movie is The Wandering Earth. Borg had left behind a great power, but Borg's family didn't have a leader. Hence, they had no idea what to do now. And the elves in the lower stratum seemed to have gained new ideas due to the Night Elves' miraculous victory. An ideal of fighting for their freedom began to spread among the chaos, as if a mysterious power was promoting it. It began to spread like fire. Sally, the High Priestess, is letting me take over Borg's position and be the elves' chief commander. The chance for our Brewster family to rise is here. Elliot paced around the room excitedly as he said to Sally, very soon, we will be able to replicate the Borg family's glory and become the first family in the Wind Forest. Then be killed like Borg, and the entire family gets split up by those fellows who worshipped him initially. Sally said with a cold expression as she watched Elliot with a disappointed gaze. Elliot's expression froze momentarily, but he soon turned around, and said to Sally, why would that happen? I am different from Borg. He wanted to be the king of the Wind Forest, but I don't. You are going to be the new princess of the Wind Forest and the new master of the Wind Forest. Our Brewster family will then become the Wind Forest's new royal family. Sally pursed her lips and shook her head. Father, Princess Irina is not dead, and Alex is still alive too. Furthermore, they have the support of a powerful tribe that is on par with us. This huge defeat has already let the elves begin to reflect on freedom and resistance. The Wind Forest's fake prosperity isn't going to hold for too long. Do you want to sink deeper and deeper into it? No. This is impossible. Elliot shouted, and frenziedly continued, the Wind Forest is not going to fail. When were those slaves ever content? But, how would they dare to resist when they are facing a powerful strength and whips? When you become the queen of the elves and I am the chief commander, the Wind Forest and the Brewster family are going to achieve immense prosperity and honor. What if I don't support you, Sally said, pursing her lips. Elliot was stunned and his gaze swept toward Sally. He raised his voice. What did you say? What if I, too, want to give those lowly elves freedom when I become the queen? Sally said in a straightforward manner, looking into Elliot's eyes. Smack! A loud slap resounded. Sally covered her cheek and took 2 steps back as she stared at Elliot in disbelief. The father who had adored her since she was young slapped her? How dare you say something like this? Do you know how much effort I spent on the glory of the Brewster family and you? I waited for Irina's departure and Borg's death. And now when everything is about to succeed, and the Brewster family is about to become the most honorable family in the Wind Forest, you are asking me to give it all up. Elliot roared at Sally furiously. Sally looked at Elliot's hideous and crazy expression with reddened eyes. This man was no longer the father who doted on her. Interests and power had twisted him. Elliot gazed at Sally, who was silent with reddened eyes, and suddenly realized his actions had been inappropriate. He quickly lowered his hand and squeezed out a smile. Sally, did I hurt you badly? Father didn't mean to do it. I was agitated and failed to control my emotions. You know that whatever I do is for you and this family. Sally avoided Elliot's extended hand and shook her head slightly. I'm fine. I am going to rest now. She turned and walked out as soon as she was done saying that. How could I have hurt Sally? Elliot watched Sally walk out the door and looked at his outstretched hand with self-reproach. But soon, a maniacal smile began to appear on his face, and he resumed his pacing around in the room again. He excitedly said to himself, when I get the command of the troops and Sally ascends to the throne, I will be the real king of the Wind Forest. I will finish whatever Borg failed to do. The next morning, Mag was woken up by 2 peals of melodious laughter instead of the alarm clock. Mag, who was sleeping on the floor, opened his eyes and saw 2 laughing faces that were looking down at him from the bed. The 2 faces had a glorious smile that made him smile as well. Father, your eyes looked like a cat's. Amy used her finger to draw on Mag's eyes. There was still black carbon powder left on her fingers. Irina covered her mouth as she said, I think a mustache will look rather nice. As a result, she had a stroke of mustache over her upper lips too. Tisk, tisk. This is not fair. Are you bullying the man with the lowest status in the house early in the morning? How could you do this? Mag looked at them resignedly. Although he was complaining, he couldn't help but smile. Mag reached over to carry Amy and rubbed his face against hers. He looked at Amy who had half a black face and smiled. Now Amy has a black face too. Wow, this is fantastic. Amy chuckled and looked at Irina. So, only Mother's face is clean now. No. No way. I reject it. Irina rejected seriously. However, Mag and Amy had already pounced on her. 10 minutes later, the 3 of them sat on the little bed, looked at each other's dirty face, and laughed out loud together. Ugly Duckling, which was sitting at the end of the bed, opened its eyes sleepily. It jumped up from the bed with a meow, shrank to the door with bristled fur, and stared at the 3 of them in terror. All right. Let's go to brush our teeth and wash up. We are resuming our business today. Mag carried Amy and walked to the bathroom. He also couldn't understand why he was playing such a childish game today. He even felt so happy playing it. Life is beginning to feel fun. Irina looked at Mag and Amy's back with a smile. This is the toothpaste. This is the toothbrush. Squeeze the toothpaste onto the toothbrush, and then brush up and down like this. Mag was teaching Irina how to use a toothbrush to brush her teeth. The family of 3 stood in front of the wash basin in a row, with Amy standing in the middle on a stool and Mag and Irina at her sides. Watching their similar actions in the mirror, all 3 of them had smiles in their eyes. Putting on her favorite little purple dress, Amy said to Irina and Mag, Father, Mother, I discovered I have a super ability today. What? Irina asked with a smile. Super like both of you. Which part of me? Irina touched her hair. Was her hair messy? Weirdly cute, Mag said smilingly. Irina was a little stunned, and then she laughed out loud. She looked at Mag with glistening eyes. He was such a fast learner. Amy came forward and pouted her lips. She placed her two hands that resembled two small buns at her cheeks, blinking her big eyes, and asked, "What about me, what about me? Father, am I cute?" Little Amy is very cute too." Mag swiped Amy's nose lightly with a smile. "Then, how should I tie my hair today? I want to tie a big bun today too." Amy let Mag put on the shoes for her, and then asked Irina, "Could Mother help Amy, please?" "Of course." Irina nodded. She didn't expect Amy to like her to tie her hair so much. It seemed like her hair tying technique wasn't as bad as she thought. Amy has to go to school today. I feel we should tie a bun that is more low profile. The school is catching the students with weird dressings. Why don't I do it today? Mag said weakly. The big bun that looked like a bird's nest had left a huge impression on him. Going to school with such a hairstyle was definitely going to make her the center of attention. It was still better to be more low profile. Is it so? Irina was slightly disappointed to hear that. Yes. Mag nodded. Seeing that Irina wasn't very happy, he said, "However, Amy will be going over to Master Urian next door for classes tomorrow, and there's nobody else there." "All right. I will tie Amy's hair tomorrow then." Irina's eyes lit up and she nodded. "So from now on, Father and Mother will tie my hair on alternate days." "It's fantastic," Amy said happily. Mag carried Amy over to the dressing table, and used a wooden comb to straighten her hair. He got a rubber band out from the box and twisted the hair a few times nimbly. A dainty and adorable little bun was then done. "So fast? And it's so cute." Irina stared at Amy's hair that was tied up so quickly. It really looked like a little bun. It was dainty and cute, and not messy at all. It was at least 100 times nicer than the big bun that she secured with magic yesterday. Most importantly, Mag's movements seemed to be well practiced. Her eyes didn't even have the chance to learn, and Amy's hair was already done. "Do you want to learn?" Mag turned around and smiled at Irina. Irina twisted her head to one side, and proudly said, "No, I don't." "Then let's go downstairs now. I need to make breakfast for the cleaners." Mag looked at the clock, and it was already 6 in the morning. Amy walked next to Irina as she touched the long hair down her back, and asked, "Mother, why don't you let Father tie your hair for you?" "Because some people only want to tie hair for you and have never thought about me." Irina pursed her lips as she threw a glance at Mag's back. Mag raised his eyebrows as he sensed the jealousy that was getting stronger gradually behind him. He was feeling a little aggrieved. He simply thought Irina's hair was so smooth and special that she looked the best by wearing it down without the need for any accessories and styling. Mag went downstairs, and Firas was already waiting at the door. Firas went into the restaurant, and concernedly asked Irina, "Princess, did you have a good rest last night?" The princess preferred to sleep in her own bed. She couldn't rest very well if she was in an unfamiliar environment. "I did." Irina nodded. A soft big bed with a flower-scented quilt and the little cutie in her arms. She had a wonderful rest last night, and her tiredness was all swept away. Firas looked at Irina's glowing complexion. She did look well rested, so she felt much relieved. "I need to go out after breakfast," Irina said casually as she took a sip of warm water from the glass that Mag passed to her. "Do you have something on?" Mag asked. "Please let me go with you," Firas said at the same time. Firas looked at Mag, and then at Irina. Wasn't the princess talking to her? "I have to go find a place for the Night Elves base," Irina said to Mag before looking at Firas. "You don't have to come with me, Bean Sprout." Learn to cook from him diligently. You will be the head chef of the Night Elves in the future. The meals will be the biggest selling point for the Night Elves recruitment. Head chef. Firis opened her mouth slightly as she suddenly felt a burden on their shoulders. But this meant the princess was placing her trust on her, so she had to do a good job. She nodded seriously. I will do my very best. The Night Elves would move their base to Chaos City, and build up their strength here as they waited for their chance to attack the Wind Forest. Irina had told Mag that yesterday, and they indeed needed to search for the base for 1,000 people properly. Why don't you wait until the restaurant's service is over? I'll accompany you on your trip. I am more familiar with Chaos City, Mag said to Irina. Might as well. I don't have any money on me. Irina nodded without any hesitation. Boss, I will try my best to return the money we need to pay for the rent, Firis quickly said. She was worried that Mag would be offended, and take the princess for a cad. Mag and Irina looked at Firis simultaneously with a weird expression. Although my salary is very low now, I will work very hard, Firis said determinedly as she was stared at by the two of them. She simply couldn't let the princess work. Let's talk about this later. I am willing to contribute to the Night Elves case too, Mag consoled. Boss, you are simply marvelous. Firis looked at Mag, feeling very touched. She hadn't expected Mag was willing to do so much for the Night Elves because of her. She didn't know how to repay him. No worries, no worries. I will go and cook first. Mag walked to the kitchen, feeling rather embarrassed. It was his duty to earn money to let his wife spend. Since Firis is already back, can I stop coming to work from now on? I don't think I am needed anymore. Camilla asked when she came to the restaurant and saw Firis cutting all sorts of ingredients perfectly with wind blades. We have signed a year's contract, and since we have added in the hot pot, the ingredient usage has doubled too. Now that Firis is back, both of your workloads could decrease quite a bit. Hence, it's better for you to stay. Mag shook his head at Camilla. The restaurant needed manpower the most now, so there was no way he would let go of someone who could work so easily. Camilla looked at Mag aggrievedly. She would have never submitted this easily if he hadn't had the photo stones. After the breakfast service, Mag changed his clothes and went out with Irina. Irina looked at the gauze hat that was concealing her looks, frowning, and said, "Is this necessary? At the end of the day, we are setting up a base. It's better to keep a low profile. Otherwise, we will look too unprofessional." Mag pressed his mustache that was about to fall off, and hailed a horse-drawn carriage. He requested the horse-drawn carriage to send them to a rental company. The rental company was the real estate agent of this world. A stable and equal environment had given birth to many forward-looking industries in Chaos City. They indeed couldn't find an agent with such complete listings in other places. A beautiful and seductive young succubus lady came forward to welcome Mag and Irina the very moment that they stepped in. Her gaze swept across Mag's body, and she immediately smiled. "This way please, sir and madam. Did you come here with business to lease or to rent? Of course, if you need to buy property, we have plenty of listings for you to choose to." Mag got straight to the point. "We need a big factory building to set up a huge operation. We intend to rent it in the long term or purchase it directly if there is a suitable listing." The succubus Miss eyes lit up instantly. This was a big business. She would be able to buy another house in the city this month if she could sell a factory building. She began to look at Mag with a gentler gaze. She didn't expect this gentleman to be so wealthy despite being so young. Mag felt a sense of coldness coming from his side when he saw the succubus gaze getting more and more perverted. He quickly took 2 steps back and pointed to Irina. "This is my boss." The succubus was taken aback, and then quickly apologized, "Sorry. I'm so sorry, madam. I thought the two of you were. Please pardon my recklessness and ignorance." "It's fine. Let's look at the properties," Irina said coldly. She gave Mag an amused look. It felt rather good to be a boss. Mag heaved a sigh of relief. As a competent man, he had to be very observant of the emotional changes of the woman next to him. Otherwise, he didn't even know how he made her angry sometimes. The succubus miss looked at Mag aggrievedly before leading Irina toward the VIP area. Please wait here for a moment. I will go get you the listings right away, the succubus miss, who brought them to a segregated VIP room, said respectfully before going out again. Isn't it a place for us to stay? Why are we choosing a factory? Irina asked with confusion after they were the only ones left in the room. There are over 1,000 people in the Night Elves. Normal houses won't be able to accommodate all of you. Furthermore, we don't know when we can fight back, and they would have nothing to do in the meantime. So, why don't we find something for them to do, and at the same time subsidize the Night Elves' military expenditure? Mag said with a smile. He had thought about that and the specific venture project that they were going to do on the way here. Irina pondered for a moment before nodding as she agreed with Mag. Thank you for waiting. The succubus miss came in with 2 huge registers of listings, while another succubus poured Mag and Irina a cup of tea each. Although the succubus miss was promoting all kinds of properties, Mag didn't listen to her suggestion to buy the factory building in the south of the city. Instead, he suggested Irina buy a more remote factory building in the north of the city. Madam, are you sure that you want to buy this factory building? Although its land area is bigger, this region is not quite developed yet, and there are not many factories and residential areas nearby. You would have a problem when you need to recruit workers, the succubus miss said sincerely. This factory building only cost 5 million copper coins, and a similarly big factory building in the south of the city would cost at least 2 times that. I just want this. Irina shook her head and turned to Mag. Let's pay for it. All right, boss. Mag suppressed his laugh and nodded. This boss was indeed full of style. Don't you want to go see the factory building with your own eyes first? The succubus miss asked. There's no need to. We'll take it. Irina shook her head lightly. Since the succubus miss saw that Irina had already decided, she said to Mag, this way please. Mag nodded and followed that succubus downstairs to make the payment. The real estate registration in Chaos City was very standardized, but since the agent had her channels, it only took them one morning to complete registering the property under Irina's name. Didn't you say we should keep it a secret? Why did you still write my name on the title deed? Irina asked Mag perplexedly after they walked out of the agent's door. We wouldn't be able to hide it, as there will be lots of elves gathering there anyway, so it doesn't matter that we wrote your name. Mag shrugged. All the upper echelons in Norland Continent should have already known that the Night Elves were going to move to Chaos City. That's true too. Irina nodded, and then she looked at Mag, feeling rather speechless. Then, why am I wearing this stupid hat? We still have to look professional. Mag adjusted the gauze hat for her, and then hailed a horse-drawn carriage to go to the north. They would still need to go and see that building's condition for themselves, or else the Night Elves could be homeless when they arrived. Seems like that the succubus miss was correct. This place is really a little remote. Mag raised his eyebrows when he saw that big factory building in the middle of the wilderness. He didn't expect there would be a place that was so deserted in Chaos City. The place was covered by either snow or grass. This place has already been abandoned for 2-3 years. What are you guys going to do here? The coachman asked in confusion. From today, it belongs to us, Mag said smilingly. He asked the coachman to get closer to the building and wait out there for a while. He brought Irina to open the big lock on the door. They pushed open the door and walked in. The interior of the factory building wasn't as bad as Mag thought. Although there was a layer of dust, there weren't too many unwanted things lying around. There were some holes in the roof, but the overall structure was still very well kept. All they needed to do was to do some repairs instead of tearing everything down and rebuilding it. As for recruitment, they had brought along their own workers, so they were not worried about this problem at all. However, what do you intend to let them do? Irina asked Meg as she looked around. Why don't we do textile spinning? This factory building is perfect for it. Textile spinning? Irina frowned. You will find out later, Meg said smilingly. After taking another look at the factory building, he said, let's go. We've got to go back now, or else we're not going to make it for the lunch service. Oh, yes. I need to conduct an interview for a new staff member in the afternoon. Do you want to join in? Interview. It's to test those people who registered face-to-face to see if they are suitable to join the restaurant's staff. This sounds interesting. I am the restaurant's lady boss, so I should take part, right? Service staff's recruitment. Interview would take place this afternoon. The name list is, ... The customers lining up in the afternoon saw that notice on the restaurant's door. There were 2 long rows of names on it. It's fantastic, I am on the name list. Oh my heavens! I am not on the list. Hey, mister, don't you think you have gone overboard trying to lie about your gender? What do you know? Not everyone knows how to admire my beauty. As the customers read the name list, some of them were happy, while others were sad. Hey? Rena? Could this really be her? Shan Shan said in astonishment as she saw that familiar name on the list. She had intended to ask Rena to join her for lunch in that afternoon, but she was asked to work overtime by the boss, so she most probably couldn't even eat lunch. Rena, I brought you a biscuit. Eat it first before you continue, Shan Shan said when she got back to the office. She put the biscuit that she bought from the roadside stall next to Rena, who was doing calculations fervently. Thanks, Rena replied without raising her head. She quickly filled the amount that she had just obtained into the ledger. She had spent about 30 minutes on calculations before she got that amount. Shan Shan sat down, and curiously asked, Oh, yes. I went to Mamie restaurant for lunch earlier, and saw the interview name list. There's someone on the list that has the same name as you. Did you really register for it? Rib. The quill in Rena's hand tore the ledger's page, but she didn't care about it. Instead, she suddenly raised her head in surprise, and said, Really? Can I really go for the interview? It's really you. Shan Shan was astonished too, but she swiftly nodded. I did see your name, and the notice says the interview starts in the afternoon. It's already 1:30 p.m. now, so it should already begin. No. I've got to go for the interview. Rena stood up instantly and started to walk to the door. Shan Shan gazed at the thick ledgers next to Rena, and concernedly reminded, But Rena, didn't boss say that you've got to hand in the ledgers to her by today? Rena's footsteps halted as she turned to look at those ledgers and thought of the boss warning. There was hesitation in her eyes as she would be fired if she couldn't finish these assignments today. She wasn't very confident that she would succeed in the interview. She really didn't look very good when compared to those beautiful ladies in Mamie restaurant. If she didn't succeed in the interview and got fired from her current job, she wouldn't have the money to buy medicines for her mother. Rena lost her courage to step out immediately when she thought of that. Shan Shan looked at Rena with a sympathetic gaze. Her family had shares in this company, and she only came to work here because she was bored at home. The boss treated her quite well, but Rena was badly oppressed. Furthermore, she knew how much Rena loved to cook. She would have a much happier life if she could go and work at Mamie restaurant. Rena, pass me half of the ledgers. We will try our best to complete it before the shift ends, and then you will go for the interview. Maybe you can make it, Shan Shan said. This. Rena looked at Shan Shan with hesitation on her face. Although I can't bear to see you go, it is definitely a good thing if you join Mamie restaurant's staff. Maybe you could even get me another helping of tofu pudding. Shan Shan got up and took half of the ledgers from Rena and returned to her seat. Let's begin. We can do it. Thank you, Shan Shan, Rena said with reddened eyes. She, too, quickly returned to her seat and picked up the quill again. After the lunch services end and a short rest period, Mag began the first formal interview for Mamie Restaurant's recruitment exercise. The interviewers' lineup was extremely extravagant for this interview. They were the best knight in the Norland continent, Alex, former princess of the Elves and current spiritual leader of the Night Elves, Irina, Frost Dragon's princesses Elizabeth and Yabimaya, Moon Nation's princess, Babla, Lantist's princess, Gina, Fok Tribe's princess, Connie, this was struck off, Countess Bartoli, Camilla, this was struck off too. They were actually only trying to recruit 1 or 2 new staff members for the restaurant with such a lineup. A few tables were formed into an arc, and there was a chair in their center. That was the interviewee's seat. And there were all sorts of tools to test the interviewee's ability on the shelf at the side. Ability was what Mag focused on the most. Mag, who was sitting in the center, looked at all the princesses around him. He didn't know why they were all princesses. Maybe he had the constitution that attracted princesses? Irina was sitting next to Mag, which was also close to the center. Even though the ladies didn't understand why Princess Irina was suddenly so interested in the restaurant's recruitment exercise, given her status and power, it seemed rather reasonable that she was sitting at the center. All the ladies looked excited as this was the first time that all of them were interviewers. "Can I recruit someone that I like?" Connie said excitedly. Mag glanced at Connie, and calmly said, "No, you can't." Birds of a feather flocked together. He was afraid the restaurant's business wouldn't be able to carry on if he recruited another dimwit. Sigh. A newbie has no human rights. Connie murmured, and put her head on the table listlessly. "It's almost time. Let's ask the first interviewee to come in," Mag said after looking at the time. He picked up the information on the table. The first interviewee was Hannah, a young succubus miss. "The first interviewee, Miss Hannah. Please come in." Anna went to the door with the name list and read it out loud. A tall and slender succubus lady walked out from the line. She began to unbutton her coat as she walked. When she reached the restaurant's door, she removed her coat and revealed the black tight-fitting dress underneath. She displayed her figure to perfection. "Wow, she has such a good figure. I am so envious. Hey! She is just trying to sell her body. Conniving slut. Tightening my tummy binder silently." The ladies who were waiting for their interview all looked toward Hannah, and began to talk about her softly. "Cutie, can you hold this for me?" Hannah the succubus smiled at Anna. "Okay." Anna reached out to grab that huge coat, which almost engulfed her. "Thank you." Hannah smiled. She took a deep breath before she pushed open the door, and walked in confidently. Ding! The doorbell rang, and Mag and the rest all looked toward the door. A succubus wearing a black tight-fitting dress came in. Her big, wavy red hair was flowing around her wildly. Her voluptuous figure was displayed to perfection by that black dress. Her seductive eyes were looking at Mag, who was sitting in the center. She threw him a seductive glance. S.E.XY. This was the first impression all of them had of this succubus. Even though she was simply standing there and doing nothing, she still had that amazing charm that made people want to stare at her. Of course, beside the fact that she was beautiful and sexy, being a succubus, she did have a natural talent at bewitching. Mag's brows furrowed a little as he looked at that succubus who was looking at him with glistening eyes. Obviously, she had begun to use her natural seduction talents on him. This made him rather unhappy. Succubi were naturally born salespeople. As long as they could release their charm as and when they liked, they could beat 99% of normal people in sales. But Mamie Restaurant didn't need a salesperson, nor did it need a server who attempted to charm its boss. Furthermore, did he have the guts to do anything? Haha. Nope. Irina was looking at Mag and that succubus smilingly. This succubus was so daring. She was actually seducing her man right in front of her. Oh! That's huge! Ferris looked at Hannah, and then lowered her head to look at herself, feeling slightly inferior. How dare a third-tier succubus try to use seduction? This fellow could sleep all the way till morning even when I was lying on the floor totally helpless. You don't stand a chance at all. Camilla pursed her lips and glanced at Hannah with disdain. Miss Hannah, right? Have a seat, please, Mag said to Hannah with clear eyes as he put down the information. All right. Hannah looked at Mag, whose eyes were clear, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. Boss Mag didn't have any reaction to her seduction. Although she was only a third-tier succubus, even a seventh-tier knight would have his heart's fire stroked when she used her mesmerization on him. How could it fail when it came to Mag? Even though she was astonished, Hannah still sat on the seat calmly. Looking at all the people sitting in the semicircle, she was still slightly nervous. When did an interview become like this? Isn't it simply talking to the boss one-to-one? Hannah murmured in her heart. She loved the food at Mamie Restaurant, but her current job only allowed her to eat at Mamie Restaurant twice a week. Moreover, she couldn't have the expensive food, which was cruel to a succubus who loved to eat. Hence, she registered herself as soon as she saw the restaurant's recruitment notice. She was very confident that she would be recruited. Although she wasn't very familiar with the F&B industry, she knew men like the back of her hand. She was born to mesmerize men. Very coincidentally, Mamie Restaurant's boss was a man, and a single man at that. If possible, she wouldn't mind being Mamie Restaurant's lady boss. In that case, she should be able to eat a second helping of tofu pudding. Although she was facing all the beautiful ladies, Hannah regained her confidence quickly. Beauty was not enough when it came to manipulating men, otherwise Mamie Restaurant should have had its lady boss long ago. Obviously, these beautiful ladies were still too uptight. Miss Hannah, could you please do a self-introduction first? Mag said. The information was very basic, and he didn't want to eliminate an interviewee based on the first impression. Hannah smiled at Mag. Nice to meet you, boss. I am Hannah, 20 years old, a third-tier succubus. I have been doing sales for building materials in the past 3 years. I am the top salesperson in this industry. Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Mag raised his hand to indicate Hannah to stop. As there are many interviewees today, please skip over the details of your previous job scope and growth journey. Please talk about how your specialty could contribute to the restaurant, and what job you could do in the restaurant. Hannah, who was cut off, mused for a moment before she smiled at Mag. I feel I could do the job of receiving customers. This is my main job scope for my current job. Furthermore, if the boss needs to do anything normally, I can do it too. Hannah can do anything, you can also do. Hannah threw Mag a meaningful look. Mag decided to look straight ahead to indicate that he didn't understand anything. All the ladies were nodding slightly as they felt Hannah could do a good job at receiving customers. The customers would love a staff member like this. You can do Hannah when you are free? This is such a great example for a good employee. Irina pursed her lips and sneered, Comrade, your thinking is very dangerous. Hannah's expression froze as she looked at Irina. She was an extremely beautiful elf, and that aristocratic air of hers made her feel ashamed. She began to restrain her mesmerization subconsciously. However, who was this beautiful elf? She had never seen her before when she came to eat at the restaurant. Could she be a new service staff member? Or the lady boss that had never shown her face before? I didn't mean that. I only feel that I could take good care of boss' personal life while I am working in the restaurant too. I think this is what I should do as the restaurant's employee. All right. We have understood your situation, Miss Hannah. We will consider your application. We will be posting out the specific details later in the afternoon. You can take a look at it then. Mag smiled. In order to ensure the personal safety of this succubus, he felt it was necessary to end this interview as soon as possible. All right. Hannah stood up and left. Under the gaze of that elf, she felt as if she had been seen through, and that feeling was horrible. After Hannah got out of the restaurant, a cold breeze blew at her and she shuddered. "Big sister, your coat." Anna passed Hannah the coat that she was holding. "Thank you." Hannah took it and put it on with a confident smile on her face again. She sashayed and left as if she had already gotten the job. Next. Anna took out the list and called out the next interviewee. "Hey, mister, your powder isn't evenly spread, your beard isn't cleanly shaved, and a corner of the mantu one is showing. Isn't this too much, trying to cheat us by dressing in drag when you look like this?" Mag said when he saw a drag queen who had a thick layer of white powder and 2 exaggerated fake eyelashes on her face, pinching her throat as she spoke in a hoarse voice, and sitting with her legs closed. He couldn't help being sarcastic. He snuck a glance at Shirley at the side. This was the perfect example of a drag queen, okay? She was so realistic. "Are your fake eyelashes made of donkey hair?" Irina asked curiously. "Why, you people are bullies." "Boo-hoo-hoo." That mister ran away, covering his face. Next, Mag said calmly. "Are you sure you have filled your information correctly?" Mag asked doubtfully as he looked at the information which stated height 165, weight 85, and then looked at a chubby maiden who resembled a little meat bun that was stuffed into the chair. "Maybe the one in the weight box was written on the line, and you didn't read it close enough," that maiden weakly said. Mag looked closer again. Indeed, at the weight box, a vertical stroke could be seen on the box. It was done so obviously that he couldn't help but chuckle. "You are such an imp. Although I don't look very slender, I am only 18 years old, which is the age of youth and beauty in full bloom. You see, do I look like a flower?" The chubby maiden put her hands under her chin and shook her head left and right. "Meaty?" Irina asked. That maiden froze instantly. Although being meaty was rather cute, she was, still too round. The restaurant fell into a silence instantly. The ladies all turned their heads around and tried to stifle their laughter. The comments made by the combination of boss and Princess Irina were so snarky that they couldn't join in at all. "Young lady, the work in Mamie restaurant is very intense, so it may not be suitable for you now," Mag said as he, too, tried to hold in his laughter. The weight wasn't a big issue, but Mag didn't like the fact that she deliberately gave misleading information. Furthermore, judging from the way that she panted after walking those few steps from the door, her body condition obviously couldn't match the restaurant's work intensity, so he had already struck her off from the list. Next. Vanessa. Mag was slightly taken aback when he read this familiar name. Is this the pseudonym of Princess Vanessa? Why did she register too? This name list was screened by Anna according to his requirements. He didn't take a closer look, as he was too busy yesterday, so he didn't discover that Princess Vanessa had registered herself too. Currently, Mamie restaurant was already full of princesses. However, most of these princesses had fallen onto hard times, and were taken in by him. But this princess of Roth Empire was different, for she was highly favored by the king. If he found out that Vanessa was working in Mamie restaurant, he would definitely conduct a thorough check on the restaurant immediately. Mag was still in the midst of his thoughts when the door opened and Vanessa walked in. The door closed gradually, and kept Lola's nervous expression out too. "How do you do? I am Vanessa." Vanessa curtsied elegantly as she lifted her skirts up. Her hands were grasping the skirts so tightly that they looked pale. She had only read about job interviews in books, and never thought she would be facing one herself one day. She was feeling so nervous that her heart was beating wildly. She raised her head and her gaze landed on Irina. She blinked as she was startled. After she was sure that she didn't make a mistake, she covered her mouth and exclaimed, "Big sister Irina! Isn't this little Sasa?" What are you doing here? Irina was stunned to see Vanessa too. This lass always went to play with her whenever she went to Rodu in the past, so she had sort of watched her grow up. She didn't expect to meet her again in Chaos City. Vanessa was a little hesitant. She didn't want to expose her identity, but she didn't know how to lie. She wasn't very adept when it came to lying. Irina seemed to have read Vanessa's thoughts as she waved her hand, and casually said, "It's fine. It's not embarrassing if you are kicked out because you are ugly." Vanessa nodded in slight exasperation. Only big sister Irina could come up with such a reason. However, when she saw Irina sitting next to Mag, she couldn't help but curiously ask, "Then, why are you here, big sister Irina?" "I came to eat and then decided to join in the fun," Irina said nonchalantly. "Oh, I see." Vanessa nodded, enlightened. She didn't suspect anything at all. She believed her just like this? Mag raised his eyebrows. He was still pondering on how to explain why Irina was here. "Miss Van, S.A., did you come to be interviewed for joining the restaurant's service staff?" Mag glanced through the information. Vanessa's qualities did fit the requirements that Mag had set up, so it made sense that Anna chose her. However, although she dared to work here, he didn't dare to keep her. "Yes. Boss Mag. I like Mamie restaurant, so I want to become one of you. I think this will be a very interesting experience." Vanessa nodded seriously with a sparkle in her eyes. She had come for the interview behind Abraham's back. Mag hemmed and hawed. Looking at Vanessa's sparkling eyes, he didn't know what excuse he should use to reject this princess who looked forward to working so much. Irina pointed at a stack of plates on a tray on a table at a side, and said, "Pick up this stack of plates and walk 10 rounds in the restaurant." There were about 15 of them, and they were all different. They were about the number of plates that were cleared from one table during service time. "All right." Vanessa went forward excitedly and reached out to carry that tray. "It's so heavy." Although she lifted that tray, it was so heavy that Vanessa felt as if her arms were going to break. Although she tried to walk straight, every step was extremely difficult. She had only taken about 10 odd steps when she slipped, and the plates that were stacked up crashed to the floor. Mantu, often referred to as Chinese steamed bun, is a white and soft type of steamed bread or bun popular in northern China. Over hundreds. Vanessa was shocked. She already felt that her arms were going to break when she had only taken a few steps. Her arms were even still aching now. There was no way she could make hundreds of trips in the restaurant carrying so many plates. "I definitely can't do it." Vanessa shook her head, and then looked at Yabimiya and the rest with admiration. These big sisters were formidable. They made the job look so easy, and they always looked so beautiful while doing it. She hadn't expected that their job was actually so tough. "It's okay. It's actually a good thing to recognize our own shortcomings. Big sister will treat you to hot pot tonight," Irina said to Vanessa smilingly. "Really?" Vanessa's eyes lit up, and she immediately nodded her head happily. Okay. Vanessa left happily after setting up a hot pot date with Irina. Mag sighed a breath of relief as he looked at Irina with admiration. This technique of letting her know her shortcoming was indeed marvelous. The next few interviewees were only mediocre. Mag added a star next to the names of some of the ladies who had worked in a restaurant before. It would be easier for those who had previous experience to get a hang of it, and they would have expected the intensity of the work and wouldn't quit after a few days of hard work. However, Mag didn't hire them on the spot. Instead, he let them return to read the notice tomorrow so he wouldn't miss better candidates who were at the back. The next interviewee, Rena. "Is Rena here?" Anna walked in and said to Mag, "Uncle Mag, looks like the interviewee Rena didn't come for the interview." "All right. We will skip to the next one." Mag nodded and put Rena's information slip aside. This was the first interviewee to give up on her own accord. Anna replied, and then went out to call in the next interviewee. There still isn't anyone who was hired on the spot yet. It's so stringent. There were a few ladies who were so beautiful, but they were still not hired on the spot. I am a little scared. A maiden came out crying earlier. Did Boss Mag do something to them? The ladies who came for the interview were having a nervous discussion. They were expectant and yet a little petrified. Boss, the interview is almost over. Do you have someone in mind already? Yabimiya asked Mag with a yawn while the next interviewee had not come in yet. The rest began to look at Mag too. There were a few interviewees who were not bad, but Mag still didn't pass them on the spot. We will decide after we finish interviewing all of them. I still haven't found someone who I feel 100% certain of up till now. Mag shook his head with a smile. Maybe his standards were too high, but the service staff was a very important part of the restaurant, so he should be more stringent about them. The interview continued. Mag and Irina continued to maintain their strict interview attitude. Anna came in, and said, "Uncle Mag, we have interviewed all the names on the list." "All right. Thank you for your hard work, everyone." Mag stacked the information slips that he had separated into 2 stacks neatly. There were a few ladies who had made it into his short list. He had considered further which one of them he should hire. Ferris and Shirley's return had alleviated the restaurant's manpower shortage. They would only need to add one more service staff member. Otherwise, there would be too many of them standing around. Ding! Right at this moment, the doorbell rang. "Hey!" All of them looked surprised. Wasn't the interview already over? Anna pushed open the door on her tiptoes. A maiden was standing at the door, sweating profusely. She supported herself by putting one hand on the door frame. Panting, she said, I am Rena. May I ask, is the interview already over?" "Yes. It just ended." Mag nodded as he surveyed this thin maiden. She had a head of slightly curly flaxen hair and a pretty face. She seemed to have run all the way here. The name Rena was a little familiar. He lowered his head and glanced at that information slip that he had put aside. It belonged exactly to the interviewee that didn't show. Rena straightened herself and tried to smoothen her breathing as she sincerely said to Mag, "See, could you please give me another chance? You were number 21 amongst all the interviewees. The interview is over, but if your reason for being late is good enough, I don't mind giving you a chance for an interview." Mag nodded at Rena. "I was working earlier. Although it is a job that doesn't pay well and is a hassle, I cannot lose that job before I can be sure that I will join Mamie Restaurant's staff, because that job ensures my mother's and my survival. I completed my work in advance with my colleagues' help, and I ran all the way to the restaurant. I am very sorry that I have missed the interview's timing," Rena said apologetically and lowered her gaze. Despair was all over her face. Even though Shan Shan and she had tried very hard, there were simply too many ledgers to do. She still missed the interview's timing. It seemed like she would have no chance to join Mamie Restaurant's staff. Everyone in the restaurant looked at Mag. This maiden seemed to have a hard time. If only he would give her one more chance. That's a very wise choice. "Come on, Miss Rena. Let's begin your interview today," Mag said smilingly. There were over 80 interviewees coming for the interview today, and the majority of them would not be accepted. It wouldn't have been a smart choice if they had lost their original job because of an interview with an unknown outcome. Rena lifted her head and looked at Mag in surprise. She couldn't quite believe her ears. Mag picked up that information slip, and directly asked, "We will need to prepare for the dinner service soon, so we don't have much time for a conversation. Could Miss Rena please show us why we should choose you to join Mamie Restaurant?" Rena took in a deep breath and walked next to that chair. However, she didn't sit down, and instead she asked Mag, "May I go into your kitchen please?" "Why?" Mag asked. His kitchen wasn't open to strangers. Although I have never eaten the hot pot in Mamie restaurant, I have smelled the aroma of that red soup base on the evening before the last, so I am able to identify the spices that you have used in it, Rena said confidently. There may be a little discrepancy, but I trust my nose. Rena nodded with conviction. All right, come with me, Mag agreed readily, and walked straight into the kitchen. Rena quickly caught up, and kept breathing in deeply to control her heartbeat on the way to the kitchen. This was her only chance. If she didn't perform well, she would most probably be stuck in that awful place for the rest of her life. The rest also followed them to the kitchen's entrance. This test was much more interesting than carrying plates and mopping the floor earlier. Moreover, it would be really awesome if Rena was successful. Rena halted her footsteps subconsciously when she reached the kitchen's entrance. Her eyes lit up when she saw the clean and bright kitchen. The clearly designated cleaning table, chopping table, stoves, and all kinds of knives and pots hanging on the wall were gleaming with a metallic shine. She almost couldn't believe a kitchen could look like this. It was totally beyond her imagination. Her kitchen at home only had a hanging stewing pot and a little stove stacked up using rocks. And all these in front of her as mesmerizing as a dream. If she could cook here. Rena's heart began to beat vigorously. She couldn't imagine what kind of blissful feeling that would be. Mag turned around and saw Rena, who was appraising the kitchen with sparkles in her eyes as if she was visiting a holy place. He had a hint of admiration for her in his eyes, and didn't rush to interrupt her. Rena's gaze went one round in the kitchen before landing on Mag. After discovering that he was watching her, she suddenly realized she was still in the process of the interview. Panic flashed through her face, and she swiftly waved, and said, "Oh, excuse me. This is the first time that I have seen such a high-class kitchen, and I couldn't control myself. It's fine. These are the condiments and spices that I usually use, and those used in the red soup base are all here too. Now, it's your turn to perform." Mag opened all the covers of the condiments and spices containers and stepped aside. There were a total of 50 to 60 condiments and spices there. He had used 15 condiments and spices for the red soup base. It was almost impossible to pick out all the condiments and spices he used from here accurately even if he or she had eaten the hot pot before. Otherwise, he would be too easy to imitate. And he didn't quite believe that Rena, who had only smelled the aroma before, could succeed in the challenge of identifying his red soup base's recipe. What a complete collection of spices! Rena took 2 steps forward and stood right in front of those spices. She didn't back out because there were too many condiments and spices, and she stared at those spices in amazement instead. She had never bought spices like Sichuan pepper, which was even more expensive than gold, before. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The fragrances of all the spices made her smile satedly. It would be fantastic if she could obtain the right to utilize these spices. Rena tilted her head, and said to Mag, "Then I will start now." She didn't spend too much time being immersed in those spices. She took a plate from the side, and began to get her nose closer to those containers to smell the spices closely. Although she had never seen many of these spices before, the scents wouldn't lie. She only needed to find those scents that she had smelled on that day, and she would be right. This, and this. Rena began to pick up bits and pieces of spices from the containers and put them on a plate. She wasn't fast, but she was systematic. She smelled them rolls by rolls, and pondered occasionally before picking up the spices that she believed to belong on the plate. Anna watched from the window on her tiptoes, and curiously asked, "Can she succeed?" "Maybe." Shirley lifted Anna up, and let her watch the scenes in the kitchen easily. Sichuan pepper, dried chili, star anise, cinnamon. Mag's eyes became brighter and brighter. Up till now, all the spices that Rena picked out were correct. The containers were placed randomly, so there was no way she could guess blindly and get them right. About 10 minutes later, Rena placed the plate gently on the stove and took 2 steps back. She nervously said to Mag, there are two condiments that I am not very certain about, because their scents are weaker and most probably covered by the other spices. So, I didn't choose them. Did she get them right? Irina asked curiously. All of them looked at Mag curiously. This test was the most exciting test of the day. Choosing the correct spices and condiments based on the scents alone was a hellishly difficult test. Okay. The spicy hot pot was very flavorful, so salt must be included. A suitable amount of rock sugar could thicken the broth and sweeten it, alleviating the spiciness. The rest are all correct. Mag scooped a piece of rock sugar and a spoonful of salt onto the plate, and then gave Rina a thumbs up. He seriously said, "You are a genius. This is simply too amazing." Yabimiya stared at Rina with awe and admiration. She still couldn't master assembling the Rugiamo till now. She's awesome. She almost got everything correct. Firas was also staring at Rina in a shock. She had spent a long time before she got the sauces right when she was learning how to mix the sauces for the beef kebabs. Why do they smell all the same to me? Irina went forward to take a sniff, and then looked at Rina's nose confusedly. Maybe hers was a fake nose. All of them were awed and amazed by Rina's performance. There were so many spices there, so even telling them the names would not have ensured that they would choose the correct ones, let alone picking them out accurately after smelling that soup base only once. I was simply lucky," Rina said softly as she lowered her head. She was shy after all of them praised her profusely. "Actually, what I am more curious about is this, since you have already deciphered my recipe by scents, why don't you open a hot pot shop yourself? Even if you were short of 1 or 2 spices, your business still would be good if your prices were friendlier," Mag said gravely, looking into Rina's eyes. "This is a delicacy created by you. If I simply imitated it just because I knew the recipe, it would be very unfair to you. I don't think this is what a chef should have done." Rina shook her head with conviction in her eyes. "Actually, I don't mind others imitating me." Mag extended his hand to Rina with a smile. "But I like your answer. If you are willing, Miss Rina, you are welcome to join Mamie Restaurant. Moreover, the 3,500 copper coins probationary salary was already 1,000 copper coins higher than her current salary, and it would increase further after she became a formal employee. In this case, she would be able to purchase better medicine for her mother." "Rina, have you decided?" Mag asked. "Yes, I do." Rina swiftly nodded and reached out to shake Mag's hand with tears glistening in her eyes. She could finally get rid of that awful job, and provide her mother with better conditions. "We welcome you to join Mamie Restaurant, this big family," Mag said smilingly before releasing Rina's hand like a gentleman. "Nice to meet you, Rina. I am Mia." Yabimiya went forward to greet her. "Hi, I am Gina." Gina could already use the common tongue to introduce herself fluently. Everyone began to go up to say hi to Rina and introduce themselves. Everyone pretty much agreed with Mag hiring Rina as the new staff member. It was already very impressive that she could pick up all the condiments and spices using the hot pot with her sense of smell only. "Could you please tell me why you selected me?" Rina asked Mag curiously when they were signing the contract. "Your talent at differentiating the smells amazes me, but what moves me is your character," Mag said to Rina smilingly. "If your talent at cooking is equally outstanding, I could have already found a very good sous chef." I may not be good enough," Rina said, feeling rather unconfident. Although she had been imitating food from some restaurants, she only cooked them for her mother and friends. "We will know after the test." Mag shook his head smilingly as he watched Rina sign the contract. Taking a look at the time, he said, "When would you be able to quit your current job?" "I will go back to resign today, and I can start working in the restaurant tomorrow," Rina said immediately. "Okay. Leave your measurements behind, and I will prepare a set of uniforms for you. Report to the restaurant tomorrow at 7:30 am. Mag nodded. "Yes. Rena nodded, and wrote down her clothing measurements on a piece of paper before taking her leave. Rena pushed open the door, jumped out, clenched her fist, and happily exclaimed, "Great! I finally joined Mamie Restaurant." Then, she raised her head, and her gaze landed on the rows of customers who were staring at her. Rena froze, and a blush quickly rose up on her cheeks. She slowly straightened her outstretched legs and smiled awkwardly at the crowd. Then she swiftly lowered her head and strode off. My heavens! Why are there so many people here? This is so embarrassing! Rena screamed in her heart. Is this Mamie Restaurant's new service staff member? She looks very energetic. Yes, and she is rather cute. I really envy this sister for joining the Ultimate Staff Meals team. The customers began to talk curiously while watching Rena's back. The news of Mamie Restaurant's recruitment had attracted a lot of attention in the past 2 days. After all the service staff in Mamie Restaurant were beautiful women, so everyone was curious what kind of person would join them. In the crowd, Constantine, who was wearing a long new robe, was arranging his clothes nervously, and then smoothed his neatly combed and oiled hair. He held up and lowered the bouquet of flowers in his hands repeatedly. "Bro, can you help take a look if my clothes and hair are messy?" he said to Harrison, who was standing behind him, nervously. Harrison began to look Constantine up and down, and then shook his head, and said, "You look okay. No problems at all. Thanks." Constantine heaved a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on his face again. He was about to turn back again. "Bro, you are really dressed up for a meal. May I ask, are you going to confess to Boss Mag?" Harrison asked, feeling very gossipy. "Does Boss Mag like that kind of relationship?" George, who was standing next to them, poked his head over curiously. The surrounding customers began to turn and size up Constantine curiously. This young chap was rather handsome, so why did he have a fetish like this? And nonsense! I like women. I don't like men," Constantine said righteously. He looked toward Mamie Restaurant with flowers in his hands, and expectantly said, "Today, I am going to confess my feelings to that beautiful maiden. I am not going to miss it this time round." "Which maiden is that? Which beautiful server is so unlucky to be noticed by you?" Harrison was even more curious now. The customers were all looking at Constantine curiously. No one had ever confessed their feelings to Mamie Restaurant's servers before. This was an excellent chit-chat topic right before dinner. You will find out soon enough. Constantine didn't want to expose his cards. He smoothed his clothes out and stood up even straighter. He used deep breathing to regulate his heartbeat. Harrison shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly, and continued to wait for the restaurant to open its door. Ding! The restaurant's door opened outward, and Mag, wearing his chef's suit, was standing at the entrance and welcoming everyone as usual. Constantine's gaze quickly landed on Shirley in the restaurant, and his eyes moistened instantly. This was the maiden that he had been pining for day and night, and she was right here in front of him again. The customers greeted Mag and filed in. Constantine's steps were shaky as he followed the crowd in. He skipped over Mag and went to stand in front of Shirley straight away. He swallowed his saliva nervously before saying, "Miss Shirley, do you remember me?" Shirley took a look at Constantine, and calmly replied, "No, I don't." The fire in Constantine's chest and all the words he wanted to confess were all extinguished by a pail of icy water suddenly. It was so cold. Except one trap, of course. The first unfortunate case before the new year. Harrison sighed as he passed by Constantine. The nosy crowd all looked sympathetically at Constantine. This love that had not even sprouted was killed mercilessly just like that. What a pity! Constantine quickly put his sadness away, and smilingly said, "It's all right, let me reintroduce myself. I'm not interested." Shirley turned away coldly and walked to the kitchen to start working. Constantine watched Shirley's back for a long time before he closed his open mouth slowly as his shoulders slumped in despair. Anna watched Constantine with sympathy. This uncle had been coming over every day to ask about the news of big sister Shirley, so he had to really like her a lot. However, she didn't seem interested in him. That uncle is like a dog, Amy commented softly beside Anna as she licked her ice cream. What dog? Anna asked. Amy thought for a while, and said, a single dog one. It's okay. Since Miss Shirley is back, at least I would still have a chance. I'm going to take it slow. Constantine quickly regained his fighting spirit. He let out a confident smile, went to the table he always sat at, and started ordering. Shan, I did it. Rena called out excitedly when she returned to the office. Did it? Shan lifted her head in bewilderment. As she looked at Rena's beaming smile, she jumped up from her chair, and grabbed Rena's hands excitedly. Rena, have you succeeded in getting a job in Mamie restaurant? I'm hired. Rena nodded vigorously. That's great. The two ladies hugged each other, and jumped around excitedly in the office. What's all this noise about during working hours? A cold and deep voice came from the door. Shan and Rena jumped and quickly let go of each other as they looked, fluid teared, at the middle-aged woman dressed in a black maxi dress who was standing at the door. Bam! The woman walked in and dropped a thick stack of accounts on the table as she coldly said to Rena, Rena, look at these accounts. Didn't I tell you to write down the time of all the expenses and revenue? Look at how many of them you did not fill in. Also, what are all these nonsense notes? I paid you to work. If you can't even do something so small, get out of here today. Yes, boss. I won't be coming to the office from tomorrow onwards. Please look for someone better suited for the job, Rena said in a relaxed manner. She waved to Shan and turned to walk out of the door. You. The boss watched in shock as Rena turned and walked away. She obviously did not expect this little administrative staff member, who was usually timid and soft-spoken, would actually quit on her without any hesitation. Right, just a reminder. About those accounts, you have to ask your dear younger siblings. They might know better about the expenses with the notes and those without the timestamps, Rena told the boss as she paused in her steps and turned back to face her, after which she turned to leave. After walking out of the office door, Rena turned back for one last look. She had been in this place for 3 years, and now she would turn away without any hesitation. At the moment she turned around, she felt relieved, and it felt as though even the sunset had gotten brighter. Although she was deducted half a month's salary, she should be able to survive with the salary that came in just a few days ago until she got her salary from Mamie restaurant next month if she scrimped and saved. It was 3,500 in cash. When she received her pay next month, she would be able to buy new clothes for her mother. After Connie got through 9 levels of the prison easily with a pot of Buddha jumps over the wall, she was finally surrounded by prison guards and brought to Rex. After the prison guards had left, she went up, and asked, Master, what are we learning today? You've learned quite a lot during this period of time. Tonight, go kill some people, Rex said absent-mindedly as he took the Buddha jumps over the wall, opened the lid, and took a deep sniff. He smiled with satisfaction. Kill. Connie was slightly shocked. She cowered little as she said, I don't know how to. All the skills you've learned from me are used to kill. If you're not going to kill people, are you going to slaughter chickens? Rex took a sip of the soup and smiled. Connie shrugged, and a little innocently said, I haven't even slaughtered a chicken before. The people who were out to kill you in the past have already set their eyes on Mamie restaurant. If you don't kill them, they will find you sooner or later, and then they will kill you. Otherwise, they might bring you back before killing you. What's the difference? You either die earlier or later. Those people killed my father and my tribesmen. I want to kill them to take revenge. Rex pulled out a short dagger from somewhere, and threw it on the table. It's in the second courtyard of the third alley at the west road of the northern part of the city. There are a total of 5 orcs. They are around the 6th and 7th tier. If you're fast enough, you can slit their throats before they wake up. If you're not fast enough, any one of them can kill you easily. You're really making me go. Connie was a little worried. Rex put his spoon down, looked Connie in her eyes, and asked, "Didn't you become my student so that I could help you take revenge?" Connie was slightly taken aback. She shook her head after looking into Rex's eyes. She took the dagger and held it tightly in her hand. She turned to walk to the door, and paused in her steps again as she turned back to ask Rex, "Master, how do I get to the west road of the northern part of the city? Where do I start counting the third alley from? Is the second courtyard the second one from the left, or the second one from the right?" Rex, who was drinking the soup, spat it out. He looked at the wasted soup, and frustratedly told Connie, "Can't you use some brains?" Connie pouted. "What can I do? I'm in despair too. Give me a moment, I will bring you there." Rex sighed. He could only take on the role of her driver for the time being so that Connie would be able to find her target. In China, the term single dog is used to describe singles. Rex, who was walking in front, stumbled and almost fell. He turned around and knocked on Connie's helmet with his fist as he said, "Can you not wear this tortoiseshell when you're assassinating someone?" "Master, didn't you say that an assassin has to be mysterious?" Connie said with grievance as she lifted her visor. "If you killed those who saw you, you would be very mysterious." Rex pressed his lips together. She really was a blockhead. "That's too cruel, isn't it?" Connie was hesitant. "Bear in mind that an assassin is never kind. Once you're kind, the one that's dead could very well be you," Rex said with all seriousness as he looked into Connie's eyes. After that, he pulled Connie's helmet off, and threw it at the bicycle 50 meters away casually. It landed nicely into the bicycle's basket. "You, seriously? Even if I don't wear it when I kill someone, I can still wear it to keep myself warm on the way," Connie grumbled as she shivered. Rex's eyelids twitched. Why did he take in such a disciple? No matter what, he had to go on teaching her since she was his disciple, so he coldly said, "Let's go." "Oh!" Connie quickly caught up with him. 2 shadows moved in Chaos City's night sky like cats, flying across roofs silently as they moved towards the northern part of the city. "Are you certain? Princess Connie is really hiding in that restaurant?" In a room where an oil lamp was lit to cast a faint yellow glow over it, 3 orcs were sitting around at a wooden table, whispering to each other. She always wears a strange shell on her head wherever she goes, but the bracelet she wore on her hand, which was given by the chief, gave her away. There is an opal on it, and I happened to see it the day before, so I stalked her for 2 days. I can basically confirm that she's Princess Connie based on her figure and the bracelet," a skinny orc said with a nod. "Humph! I can't believe the princess of the Fok tribe would actually end up among service staff in a restaurant. We've been having such a hard time looking for her. Now that we've found her, we will go over tomorrow morning again to make sure, then we can set out to capture her back on the same night. The chief has promised us a lot of goodies. This time, we will return to become big shots in the tribe." The orcs all laughed delightedly. They were the ones who had made a great contribution in this rebellion. As long as they could successfully capture and bring Princess Connie back, they would be able to enjoy a life of unlimited women and money. On top of that, they would also become the new chief's aides. After they were done planning for tomorrow's operation, one of them stayed up for night watch duty, while the others went to sleep, taking a good rest to prepare themselves for tomorrow's operation. "It's here. Make sure you do a clean job. I'll only wait for you for 10 minutes, Rex said coldly after the 2 of them landed silently at the entrance of an alley. "All right." Connie took a deep breath, tightened her grip on the dagger, and dashed towards the second courtyard. "It's that side." A hand grabbed her shoulder. Rex pointed to the courtyard on the opposite side speechlessly. How awkward would it be if she assassinated the wrong people? "Master, why didn't you say so earlier?" Connie rolled her eyes at Rex, and turned to dash towards the other courtyard. She tapped her toes on the wall, arched her back, and landed silently in the courtyard without making any sound. "That's my fault too?" Rex was speechless. After entering the courtyard nimbly, Connie quickly got close to the 3 rooms near the courtyard like a black cat as she stuck close to the wall. Her erected kitten ears trembled slightly as she listened to the slight sounds of movements in the room. The 3 rooms were all occupied. There were 2 people each in the rooms on the left and right side, while the room in the center had only 1 person in it. From the sound of their breathing, she could deduce that they were already in deep sleep. This would be the best chance to assassinate them. Zzzzzzz. Just as Connie was about to use the dagger to pry open the bolt and enter one of the rooms, she heard soft snoring coming from the side. "There are more people?" Connie's hand shook. She was already very nervous, and that made her almost drop her dagger. She took a few deep breaths to calm herself down, then held on to the roof, and swung to the other side of the room. She saw an orc with a mace in his arms as he leaned against a wall, sound asleep. "This is the fellow who killed my brother." Connie's grip on her dagger tightened. Her face turned paler as memories of the day the rebellion army marched into the palace and scenes of the massacre flooded into her mind. This was the one who was always by Gary's side. He used that very mace to kill her young brother. Revenge. "I want revenge." That was the only thought in her mind. She jumped down from the roof and pulled her dagger out silently. She plunged the dagger accurately into the sleeping orc's heart just like how she practiced usually. Ugh! That orc woke up with a start and stared wide-eyed at Connie, who was standing in front of him, in disbelief. However, before he could make a sound, the dagger, which was pulled out from his heart, was already stabbed into his mouth, coming out from the back of his head. Connie pressed onto the orc's head and pulled the dagger out slowly, letting him lean against the floor and slowly slide down to the ground. All the while, not a single sound was made. Connie took 2 steps back and looked at the orc lying in a pool of blood. Her breathing became heavier. Her hand that was holding the dagger was trembling. There was blood splattered all over her body and her face. She felt disgusted with the smell of blood, but her eyes were gleaming. She had killed this scumbag and avenged her brother. When she escaped from the Twilight Forest alone, she didn't think that she would ever be able to get her revenge. She had been weak ever since she was young, so how would she be a match for Gary and his henchmen? However, she had killed this opponent she used to think was undefeatable. That was a very miraculous feeling. After she calmed herself down a little, Connie's gaze turned cold again. She looked at the 3 rooms, and hesitated a little before walking to the room on the right. The orc sleeping in the middle room was the strongest, so she planned to kill the other 4 weaker orcs before dealing with the strongest one. She lifted the bolt with her dagger, and entered the room very smoothly. Meanwhile, the 2 orcs who were snoring loudly had not the slightest idea about it. The sharp dagger slit the 2 orcs' throats open easily, and she cut their heads off. Until their death, the 2 orcs did not even manage to make a sound. After she wiped the dagger clean on the orcs' clothes, Connie entered the room on the left, and cut the 2 orcs' heads off using the same way. Bam! Just then, the door that was half closed was kicked open violently. A huge orc was standing at the door, looking at Connie, who was throwing an orc's head onto the ground. He said in disbelief, "It's you." Connie looked at the orc who had suddenly appeared, and was equally flustered. Why was he awake? However, after getting a clear look at his face, the fire of vengeance burned in her eyes once more. He was the one who killed her mother. That orc lifted his long knife, and coldly said, "Humph, I can't believe you actually came over yourself, and even killed my brothers. Today, I'm going to bring you your stab." A section of a sharp sword emerged from his heart and interrupted his sentence. Since you're going to kill everyone, you should start from the strongest. That way, even if anything happens, it would be easier to deal with. Get it? Rex said as he pushed that orc away gently and looked at Connie, who was covered in blood. Yes, master. Connie looked at Rex and nodded hard. After that, she dove into his embrace and started crying softly. Sheer had already started manufacturing steam engines in bulk, so it would not be much of a problem for Mag to buy 10 steam engines from her. The problem at hand was the textile machine. When he was writing his thesis, he did some research on the inventions during the Middle Ages. Therefore, it was not difficult for him to come up with a design for a textile machine powered by a steam engine. Furthermore, compared to a steam engine, textile machines did not have so many technical requirements to make. It was something Mabai would be able to come up with quickly. After coming up with the sketch of the textile machine overnight, Mag drew a simple design of the workers' dormitory on another piece of paper. It was based on the standard university dormitory design, with 4 people sharing a room. It was to be the dormitory for the night elves. Since he had enough space, he could make the rooms bigger. He would look for a dwarves construction team that could work on a larger scale. 2 days should be sufficient to get the dormitory built. Mother, when are you and father going to give me a little brother or little sister to play with? Amy asked as she lay in Irina's embrace on the large bed and caressed her flat tummy. Irina was silent for a while. She looked at Amy, and asked, do you want a little brother or a little sister? Little sister. Amy replied without even thinking. After that, she added, the little sister from the Palmer family is really cute. She's so soft and fluffy, it feels good to pinch her. Irina looked at Amy's eyes glistening like stars and smiled. She ran her finger on Amy's nose bridge, and said, but I want to give all my love to little Amy. Just like right now, only holding you in my arms. That's all right. You can love Amy and I will love the little sister, then the little sister can love father. That way, we can love each other and be a loving family. Isn't that great? Little Amy said with a smile. Irina went deep in thought. She wouldn't be able to give birth to another one alone. The Demon Islands were located in the center of the boundless sea realm. They got this name because there would always be a layer of grey fog above the group of islands. The islands were of various sizes, and they were home to the demon race. The large island nearest to the center was controlled by the abyss demons. At the bottom of 2 cliffs that were close to a vertical drop tens of thousands feet high stood a few grand stone temples. At this moment, in the largest and grandest temple, the leader of the abyss demons, who was as big and large as a ball, was on the main seat. He looked at the leaders of the other races, and loudly said, this time, the 10 demon races have gathered here to join in an alliance so that we can negotiate with the king of the Roth Empire. If we were to invade and take over the entire continent, which areas would be ours, and which areas would belong to them? Does anyone have any opinions on this matter? A transaction with humans. They are even more scheming than goblins. The flaming tribe would never believe humans, a flaming demon shouted loudly. Exactly. What are humans? All they do is hold a sword and wave some sticks in the air, and they want to have a share? Such an alliance is simply a disgrace, a large demon agreed angrily. Do you dare to say that in front of Alex and Urian? A vampire mocked after taking a sip of fresh blood. The large demon was stumped. He looked at the vampire with his face flushed, but he was unable to give him any reply. The hall quieted down because of that sentence. Everyone had heard the news of Alex killing Borg a couple of days ago. That already showed that he was stronger than an ordinary 10th-tier powerhouse. In addition, Alex also killed Benson, the spatial demon patriarch, jeopardizing the spatial demon's status amongst the top 10 demon tribes. As for Krasua and Urian, they left a very deep impression on the demons after they wiped out the ogres. They had to admit that the humans who the demons had belittled in the past had already evolved into a very strong race after centuries of rapid development and population growth. We, the vampires, don't have a big population to begin with, so we don't really need land. All of you can have fun fighting for it. The vampires will not take part in any war, and we don't need any land. The vampire finished the fresh blood in his cup and stood up. He spread his arms, and a pair of gigantic black wings appeared on his back. In a split second, he turned into a shadow and disappeared from the hall. Scaredy cat. Even if he can fly, he's just a flying cat, the demon who had been dissed said sarcastically. Whoosh! A half-a-meter long black steel plate flew in from outside, and landed between that demon's legs. That demon stood up and stepped back subconsciously. A loud ripping sound could be heard, and a big hole appeared in his pants. He quickly covered his crotch area awkwardly. After the vampire left, the leaders of the other tribes also started to hesitate. Not many of them wanted to join the alliance, and the meeting ended on a bad note. The next day after morning operating hours, Mag went to Mabai's forge, and asked for his help to make some textile machines. Boss Mag, these machines are a little big. If you're in a rush for them, I can find a few other blacksmiths I know and work on them together so that you can get them after 2 days, Mabai told Mag while studying the blueprint. Great! But this is a little special, so I need you to keep it an absolute secret. If you're working with other blacksmiths, I need you to split it into parts. Mag nodded. I understand. I will split it up for the others to do. Mabai nodded. Boss Mag had always been full of quirky ideas, so it was only normal for him to be more careful in case someone plagiarized his ideas. After coming out from Mabai's forge, Mag went to Buffett Manor to look for Sheer, and he finally met her under the guidance of an assistant. Mr. Mag, you want 10 steam engines? Sheer asked as she put down the reports in her hand. Yes. I intend to use the steam engines to build a textile factory. Mag nodded. He did not intend to hide this. Oh? You've already thought of how to use the steam engines for business. Sheer looked at Mag in shock. Her engineers had been researching applications for steam engines other than in locomotives. Although they had some findings, there was still nothing concrete. I'm going to test the waters first. I've bought a factory in the northern part of the city, but I still don't know how things will turn out, Mag said with a smile. I see. Since Mag did not seem willing to divulge further, Sheer smilingly said, since you're going to open a factory, I wonder if I can join in the fun, invest a little capital, and own some shares. The place is still an undeveloped piece of land. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to get your money back? Mag asked. I might be worried if it's someone else, but I am very assured if you're the one. Even if I don't get my money back, I will have no complaints, Sheer said with a smile. Mag thought for a while, and said, since that's the case, how about an investment of 10 million copper coins and 10 steam engines for 10% shares? Sure. Sheer wrote a check, and passed it to Mag with a smile as she said, I can give you the 10 steam engines tomorrow. Give me an address. I'll get someone to deliver them. Mag could fork out 10 million copper coins himself, but he understood that he couldn't be earning all the money by himself. Giving a little interest to Sheer would be beneficial to creating new sales routes and capital flow. Young mistress, he took 10 million copper coins after saying a few empty words. Isn't this a bit rushed? The assistant said to Sheer who was inspecting the bills. Perhaps Mr. Mag is thinking about how much interest he has given me right now, Sheer said smilingly without raising her head. If he wanted to be a businessman, no one would be better at earning money than him on the entire Norland continent. The assistant fell silent after hearing that. Young mistress was a great judge of character, and was rarely wrong. Mag went to the construction workshop in the east of the city, and got an extremely skilled team of dwarven craftsmen. He signed a construction contract with them to build the dormitory for the workers and renovate the factory for 5 million copper coins. The dwarf contractor read through the blueprint thoroughly, and then followed Mag to the work site. After listening to Mag's requests, he nodded. The blueprint is a little complicated. We will need 2 days to complete the work according to the blueprint's requirements. You can pay us the rest of the sum then. Let's look forward to a fruitful cooperation. Mag shook his hand. He could always get a cheaper construction team, but only this construction team could promise to complete the construction work in 2 days. Mag returned to the restaurant, and saw Irina sitting behind the counter and squeezing Ugly Duckling's face in boredom. The round face became squarish and then triangular under that pair of slender hands. Ugly Duckling could only roll its eyes listlessly. It didn't dare to complain at all. Irina released Ugly Duckling's round face, and asked Mag, "How was it? Did everything go smoothly?" I already found the construction team, and they will start today. They promised to complete the job within 2 days, so the Night Elves will have a place to stay when they reach Chaos City. The machines are already being custom-made, and we can put them to use very soon. Mag nodded with a smile. What is this factory going to make? Irina asked. Mag suddenly remembered that he hadn't told Irina about that yet, and quickly explained, it'll be a textile factory, which is a factory that turns cotton wool into cotton fabric. But we have upgraded the production from manual to machines to increase the output. Okay. Irina nodded after pondering for some time. She still couldn't understand what kinds of machines could replace manual operation. She only pretended to understand and nod before continuing to curiously ask, "What's the name of this factory?" Mag was caught. His mind was only occupied with buying the factory building and machines, so he hadn't thought about the name at all. He asked Irina, "Do you have any ideas?" Since the restaurant is called Mamie Restaurant, then the factory will be called IMY Textile Factory. Irina said after some thoughts. What about me? Mag said weakly. Did you think about me when you named the restaurant then? Irina countered, staring into Mag's eyes. Mag opened his mouth, feeling speechless. He could only nod in agreement. Okay, let's call it IMY. What else could he do? He couldn't overpower her. After confirming the company's name, Mag continued, I have thought about this on the way home. The news of the Night Elves settling in Chaos City will spread very soon, and many people will be targeting the factory. To prevent certain troubles, we need to sever the ties between the restaurant and the factory temporarily. It will indeed be very troublesome if those fellows target the restaurant now. Irina nodded. Although Chaos City was a relatively safe place, Amy was still young, and Mag had not recovered his power fully. They could be placed in a very unfavorable situation if the enemies came looking for them and secretly schemed to harm them. In this case, I will wash my hands off the restaurant and be the boss of the factory, while you be the boss of the restaurant. We are both bosses, Irina said after a moment of thought. That will do too. I will say publicly that I had invested in the company. I chose to accept all the Night Elves because the Night Elves are a relatively cheap labor force, and I have recruited you as the boss of the company. Mag nodded. Although the traces were a little obvious, this excuse could still work relatively well. What do you think about the peace renegotiation 1 month later? Irina asked Mag again. Mag gravely said, judging from the current situation, it's highly likely that the renegotiation will fail. Apart from a few weaker species, all the powerful species are very keen to redistribute the territories. They want to restart the racial war and redistribute the territories with might again. If we only have a month's time, the Night Elves will not be able to overthrow the Wind Forest's rule. Irina shook her head with worry in her eyes. How the elf species was going to defend itself when the racial war started would be a huge problem. The racial war would sweep across every single species and bring endless chaos and destruction, so we must do our best to prevent the resumption of the war. Mag walked to the map of the Norland continent and gazed at the territories of all the tribes. A storm was going to sweep across the continent, and black fog began to appear secretly in places where they couldn't see. Mag still had no idea what they could do. What can we do? After 100 years of development, the original balance between the species has long been broken. What we should do now is to restore the balance, and buy more time for the integration of the continent's races. Mag used his finger to draw a circle around Chaos City in the center of the map. Just like Chaos City. Since all the species could get along peacefully in a city, why can't they make Norland continent a bigger city like that? As long as they break down the boundaries and interact with one another, they can get along peacefully. This is interesting, Irina said thoughtfully. She tilted her head and looked at Mag, suddenly realizing the way he thought about problems had changed. He began to consider more other matters apart from the sword. Mag retrieved his gaze from the map, and told Irina, "We only have 1 month's time to make all the species forget about restarting the war. I've already made some plans, but I am not sure if they are feasible. Do you want to have a look?" "Not now." Irina shook her head and got closer to Mag. Her lips curled. "Little Amy told me last night that she wants a little sister." "Sister? Of course I do. Little girls are so cute, just like little Amy. Everybody likes them." Mag nodded in agreement. He picked a thermal cup and took a sip of goji berry tea. This winter air was so dry that his throat felt scratchy. Irina's gaze fixed on Mag became more and more intrigued. She liked to see Mag at a loss. Although he was the fearsome dragon slayer in front of others, he would get embarrassed and blush in front of her. She suddenly got close to Mag's ear, and whispered, "Then, when are we having another one?" "Mamma mia!" Mag felt his legs weakening. What was she trying to do now? Ding! The restaurant's door that wasn't locked was pushed open, and Firis came in. She was a little taken aback to see Irina and Mag standing so close together. Mag and Irina turned around, and looked at Firis at the same time with narrowed eyes. "Silence the witness." That was the very first thought that popped up in Firis's mind. "Oh, you came, Firis. I was just talking to Princess Irina about you, and you appeared," Mag said smilingly, and slowly moved to the side discreetly. "Talking about me?" Firis looked at Mag in surprise. So Boss and the princess were in a discussion, and they were talking about her. Could it be that the princess wanted to give her to Boss as an appreciation gift? Firis blushed as soon as she thought about that. Although she wanted to stay with the princess and serve her, if she needed to sacrifice for the night elves, then she. Irina gave Mag a dressing down with her eyes, and then sat back in her seat leisurely. She grabbed Ugly Duckling, which was backing away, as she said to Firis, "We're building a factory together to house the night elves. The canteen is short of a cook, so we intend for you to be the head chef." "Head chef?" Firis was slightly taken aback. So, they were not talking about sacrificing her. She heaved a sigh of relief, yet she felt an unexplainable sense of loss at the same time. "Yes. I have heard the princess say that you have done a very good job at arranging the meals for the night elves in the underground cavern. You will be great at this job." Mag smiled and nodded. This was the issue that Irina and he discussed last time, and it was perfect to be used as an excuse now. Yes. I will try my best to provide delicious food for everyone." Firis nodded. Contributing to the night elves was what she should do. Moreover, with the experience gained in the underground cavern, she was no longer as afraid of taking charge as she was initially. Mag nodded. In this case, the night elves' logistics issue was solved too. Now, they simply had to wait for the night elves to arrive at Chaos City. "Then, please continue with your discussion. I will go and prepare the ingredients." Firis went to the kitchen. "I need to do some preparations too." Mag stole a glance at Irina, who was staring at him, and escaped to the kitchen. Who was able to withstand that? Coward! Irina chuckled. She squeezed Ugly Duckling's face, and said, "Little fat duck, you'll be too greasy if you get too fat. You've got to exercise more." Ugly Duckling, whose eyes were squeezed shut, opened them wide and stared at Irina with fright. "Don't worry. You are still too small to talk about braising or steaming," Irina consoled Ugly Duckling, stroking its head. Meow! Ugly Duckling's fur bristled, and it shivered on Irina's lap. As it got closer to noon, the staff began to arrive at the restaurant. The new employee, Rena, greeted everyone a little awkwardly. She removed her well-worn big jacket, and revealed a brand new black and white chef's suit she was wearing. It was similar to Mag's, but it was a lady's version with a very fitting cut. "Rena, you look great wearing the chef's suit. You look just like a head chef," Yabimiya said to Rena with envy. A smile appeared on Rena's face, but she still humbly replied, "Thank you, but I am only an apprentice now." "It's fine. Your nose is very sensitive, so you will definitely learn very quickly," Yabimiya encouraged her. "Rena, come in please," Mag called out from the kitchen. "All right." Rena strode into the kitchen, and looked at Mag nervously. "It will be just like in the morning. You are still not needed to do anything for the afternoon besides watching me cook from the side. However, you have to decide what is the first dish that you want to learn in the afternoon." Rena nodded. "Relax a little. Although cooking isn't a relaxing matter, it should be an interesting matter. You would only create dishes with soul like this," Mag said smilingly when he noticed Rena was nervous. Rena was a little surprised to hear that. Soon, a smile appeared on her face. To her, cooking was indeed an interesting and happy matter. Even standing and watching Mag cook for over 1 hour by the stove was much more interesting than daydreaming in the office. Mag washed his hands and began to make their own lunch. Rena's talents let Mag see the possibility of grooming a successor rapidly. He might have to disappear frequently soon, and that would be unacceptable to the restaurant's regulars. If Rena could learn to make his dishes, even just a few of them, the restaurant could remain open, and it would be better than nothing. Ferris's talents were good too, but she had to take care of the night elves' food now, so she didn't have much time to learn how to cook now. Hence, he had to strike her out temporarily. The peak period of lunch was over, and Mag removed his apron. He took a sip from his thermal cup, and heaved a sigh of relief. Every service was like a long and intense battle. Rena approached Mag, and said, "Boss, I would like to learn how to make hot pot." "Hot pot?" Mag looked at Rena in surprise. He had made all the dishes on the menu except the hot pot, so he hadn't expected Rena's choice would be hot pot. "Yes. It was because of the hot pot that I could join the restaurant, so I want to learn hot pot as my first dish." Rena nodded with conviction. "That's fine too. Then, we will start from learning how to make a pot of broth first for this afternoon." Mag nodded after pondering for a moment. The hot pot was a good choice. If Rena could master hot pot, she could prop up half of the restaurant, and it would be much more stable than the other dishes. Was the new queen of the hot pot going to appear under his tutelage? Mag suddenly felt very expectant. What was beyond her expectations was that apart from a dash of cooking wine and raw ginger, Mag didn't add in too many spices and condiments, and the bones weren't broken. He used complete bones. The simpler the bone broth, the better. This would decide the most basic flavor of your hot pot, and using whole bones is to make sure that there are no chipped bones in the broth. Now, cover the pot and simmer it for 4 hours, and the broth will be done. Mag covered the big pot before getting a small pot from the side, and placed it on the stove. Then, he took a few small bones out from the fridge, and asked Rena, "Do you want to try now?" Rena was taken aback. She had only watched Mag do it once, and Mag was going to let her do it right away? "I think you will be able to do a good job." Mag nodded and gave her the space to work at the stove. Looking at Mag's trusting gaze, Rena hesitated for a moment before she took a few steps forward. She closed her eyes as she recapped what Mag was doing earlier, and merged it with her own understanding. She quickly opened her eyes and picked up a bone. Although this was only a single bone, it was much thicker than those pork bones that she saw usually. There were some shreds of pinkish red meat attached to the porcelain white bone. Although the meat was raw, it didn't have the smelly raw meat scent. Instead, it had a hint of light fragrance. What a unique bone! What kind of pig did this bone come from? Rena thought curiously. She seldom bought meat. She would only go to the market in the evening to get a bone to cook broth for her mother, and those bones didn't have any meat on them at all. After the boss got familiar with her, he always gave her the bones for free or at a very low price. Wash and clean the bone and marinate it simply. Pour cold water into the pot and boil it with high heat. She followed every single step exactly. She treated this big kitchen as if it was her small kitchen, and endeavored to do her very best. Mag, who was standing at the side, nodded. Just as he expected, Rena wasn't a newbie at cooking, and her ability to learn was very strong. What was even more precious was that she didn't learn everything mechanically without giving it a thought. She would input some of her own habits and thinking into some of the operations. These details were the habits obtained from having to cook for a long time. This was what made a chef different from other chefs. The meat shreds should be even more thoroughly removed. The customer's hot pot shouldn't have other types of meat that they didn't order. Even though it seems to be an extra nicety, it would actually cause some customers trouble. And the broth's SCU.M should be even more thoroughly removed. The broth's controllable loss is to obtain a more intricate and rich broth, and the floating SCU.M would result in the texture of broth failing my expectations, Mag said to Rena. But, isn't this too wasteful? Rena said hesitantly. Mag looked at the meat that he had scra.p.ed off from the bone earlier and shook his head. As a chef, it is not a good thing if we get caught trying to use every bit and part of the ingredients in the same dish. Different parts of the ingredients should be used in different dishes. Smart pairings and choices would result in the clash of delicious flavors, but putting everything in together to stew is the lowest form of cooking. Pairings and choices. Rena was thoughtful. She felt as if a door was opened in her mind, and her imagination, which was restricted by her poverty, had been let out of the cage and flew to a higher and better place. Let the suitable ingredients appear in the suitable areas. This is what an excellent chef should do. Mag smiled at Rena. Don't worry. You will get that slowly. Yes. I understand. Rena nodded before looking at her little pot. Then, this pot of broth. Throw it away and start all over again. Mag had already taken out a few bones, and placed them on the chopping board. Throw it away. Rena felt a chill. All these were the best grade bones which she had never seen in the market before, and they were going to be wasted now because of her mistakes. Yes. Mag nodded without any room for negotiation. Rena turned off the fire stiffly, and carried the soup pot to the dishwashing sink. Although she had only cooked it for a moment, there was already a meat aroma coming from the white soup. It would be a pot of scrumptious broth if it was simmered for a few more hours. And because of her mistake, a precious bone broth was going to be poured away. Rena's eyes were full of heartache. After she got to the sink, Rena held the pot for a long time. She couldn't pour it into the sink. Mag watched Rena quietly. Rena did indeed have very good cooking basics. Although she didn't have proper training, she could be trained formally very quickly with some guidance. Compared to her operations, the biggest problem with Rena was her thinking, or perhaps the thinking of the majority of the housewives in this world. Appropriate give and take was the foundation of cooking delicious food. She would never be a proper chef if she couldn't turn this thinking around. He would apply the same standards on Rena, just like the system's requirements of him. This was the basic respect for their customers. He wanted to see Rena make her own judgment. Rena, who was deliberating for a long time before the sink, turned around and earnestly said to Mag, "Boss, I know my problem already, but it's really very wasteful to simply throw this pot of broth away. Can I bring it home, please? This is a rejected item, and I never allow any rejected items to exit my kitchen. Mag shook his head, feeling rather disappointed. But, it is me who made the mistake, and the broth is not wrong. Instead of pouring it into the sink, why don't we let it achieve what it's supposed to? Rena looked at Mag perplexedly with reddened eyes. Rena, failure is not a scary thing as long as you know where you fail, and then pick yourself up and continue on. However, there is always a price to pay when you fail, right? Mag frowned slightly. This maiden seemed to be more stubborn than he thought. If there is a need, can I change it to another form of punishment? Since I was young, my mother had told me to never waste food, so I have always been respectful toward food. I cannot accept wasting such precious food and pouring it down the drain because of my subpar cooking skills. Rena shook her head. Tears were already gathering in her eyes. She pursed her lips as she tried to keep her emotions under control. After coming to this world, the test field for the god of cookery always had unlimited ingredients, and the system would always top up the refrigerator anytime. Hence, he'd never had the concept that ingredients didn't always come easy. In his eyes, he didn't care how the system handled the rest of the ironhide bull after he had the loins cut up for steaks and its chucks used for kebabs. He also never had to worry if the meat of the 5th-tier Kimball boar was discarded after its bones were used to boil the broth. Yes. He had treated the ingredients as consumables that he could squander, and threw those dishes with the slightest flaws into the waste bin without any considerations. Even though he'd begun to feel passionate and expectant about cooking, he still wasn't respectful enough toward food. And in this world, many people were still struggling to feed themselves. Mag was reminded of Jessica and that group of children, and of Amy before he came to this world. He remembered how Amy was once holding the hard-as-rock pancake that only cost 1 copper coin and eating happily. Those children understood the preciousness of food more than he did. They, like Rena, were very respectful toward food. He, who had never been through food scarcity, didn't have the right to refute the care and respect that others had for food, be it for his ridiculous insistence or so-called principles. My apologies. I think I am wrong. Mag looked at Rena apologetically. I didn't mean it that way. How could you be wrong? I shouldn't have said all that. Rena panicked as she realized her words were a little agitated. She had refuted her boss directly on her first day of work, and even caused the boss to apologize. Was she going to lose her job because of this incident? No. You were right. As a chef, we should have a certain level of respect for our food. Mag shook his head, and then smiled at Rena. As for this pot of soup, if you don't mind, please bring it back to share with your mother. It's the soup made by her daughter on her first day of work. I think Auntie is going to like it. Can I really do that? Rena was looking at Mag, whose eyes were so clear and his warm smile was so comforting. Of course. Mag went over and retrieved that pot of soup from Rena. He put it back onto the stove again and turned on the fire to continue simmering it. Then, he said, however, we still have to practice. The hot pot broth that we ourselves would be having tonight has to depend on you now. Boss. The tears that were gathering in Rena's eyes finally fell out. She turned aside and quickly wiped the tears away before turning around to nod at Mag, and walked over to the chopping table again. She picked up the boning knife, and removed the meat on the bone very carefully. Saving is a good thing too. Mag smiled as he looked at Rena's serious mannerism. He didn't feel terrible even when his principles were overthrown. Instead, he had gained a new perspective. His point of view and thinking for this world were still rather narrow. Mag nodded with satisfaction as he watched while Rena schemed the SCU.M from the boiling broth and then covered the cover and simmered it. There is a great improvement this time. However, there are some techniques you can try when you are handling the meat attached to the bones. Only using an afternoon's time, Rena had already successfully fulfilled the requirements on how to concoct a broth for a hot pot. This made Mag, who was tortured in the test field for the god of cookery, very envious. Talent, this thing, it was really. Damn. The dinner service starts from 5 p.m. You may go home to have your dinner with Auntie. Bring these ingredients back and have hot pot tonight. Mag passed a meal box and the packed up broth to Rena. I will only need the soup. I cannot take the ingredients. Rena quickly waved her hands and only accepted the broth. We are also having hot pot for dinner tonight, and your share has been put aside. Mag pointed at that red soup simmering in the pot. Rena bowed deeply to Mag, and gratefully said, "Thank you, boss. Go now. You still need to come to the restaurant later," Mag said smilingly. Rena took the meal box and bade goodbye to the rest. She walked to the door happily, and she couldn't wait to let her mother try the broth she concocted for the hot pot. She said to her mother that she would cook a hot pot meal for her one day last night, but she didn't expect the day would come so soon. "Seems like you like her very much, Irina," who went out in the afternoon, said to Mag smilingly. "An excellent disciple. This is called treasuring talents," Mag explained. He had already confirmed that Rena would be able to take over the designated hot pot area soon. He had always been looking for such a genius. "I want to go on a trip to the boundless sea realm," Irina said in a volume that only the two of them could hear as she went into the kitchen. Mag looked at Irina, stunned. "I intend to go kill some demons. Aren't some of those fellows from 3 years ago still alive?" Irina said calmly. "When are you leaving?" "I'll set off after I settled the night elves." Mag looked at Irina. He knew she wouldn't waver after she made up her mind. Moreover, if his power had been stronger, he also wanted to kill those bastards who were still alive. Beep, beep, beep. Alarm. A serious leak incident happened at the seawater lobster rearing base, and 300,000 lobsters have escaped from the base. The nettings at the rearing base were destroyed by the corrosion and couldn't restore themselves. The number of escaping lobsters is increasing steadily. Because they don't have natural enemies in that area, serious damage could be done to the local ecosystem. Emergency mission: could the host please proceed to the lobster rearing base at the Boundless Sea Realm to remove the source of the corrosion, repair the base's nettings, and catch the runaway lobsters? Mission reward: the name of Lobster Hunter and 0.5 strength. Punishment for mission failure: strength returns to 0. Just then, the system sounded in Mag's head urgently. Mag was taken aback. This mission was too extraordinary. "System, you are asking me to catch 300,000 lobsters? Is there something wrong with your brain? Why don't you just go to the heavens?" Mag couldn't help but complain. Yuan Longping, born September 7, 1930, is a Chinese agronomist known for developing the first hybrid rice varieties in the 1970s. Damn! This is a rogue clause. Mag raised his eyebrow. He hadn't expected that he would be tied to the system and this stupid system could be reset. This was simply too stupid, wasn't it? As an auxiliary, the system was created for the host, and to prevent the system from taking over, God has established the 3 major principles. Hence, all the systems have to act according to the principles, the system said mechanically. Mag didn't want to argue about the clauses as they were too complicated and beyond his control. So, he instead said, "It's fine that you have 300,000 lobsters, but why are they reared in the Boundless Sea Realm? Isn't crayfish a freshwater shrimp? Why the hell are you rearing them in the sea? And how did you, a system, let them escape? You are too unprofessional, aren't you? This is the super devil crayfish that this system cultivated by doing a gene recombination of the crayfish, Australian lobster, and this world's devil prawn. It has adapted to the Boundless Sea Realm extremely well. This crayfish is not only big and fleshy, its meat is also rich and tender. It also resolved the problem of the crayfish being difficult to handle and dirty. It's an excellent ingredient regardless if you are making the garlic crayfish or the spicy crayfish. Moreover, this system isn't responsible for this leakage. It was because an unknown black fog has seriously corroded the netting at the edge of the lobster farm and caused this leakage, the system said, feeling rather maligned. Is that the black fog that appeared on board previously? Mag was a little shocked to hear that too. The system had mentioned the black fog to him before. He didn't expect it would appear at the boundless sea realm this time. Based on this system's analysis, both have identical components, so they should have come from the same place. Furthermore, according to this system's surveillance, the range of this black fog is increasing rapidly, and the living things that are within the range of the black fog have begun to display a trend of mutation. Then, isn't that crayfish going to be unfit for consumption? Mag glared as this was most probably the very first reaction of him as a crayfish aficionado. This system has already isolated the sea area where the mutations have occurred. All the mutant creatures are confined in this area, and moreover, mutation takes time. Getting in contact with the black fog for a short period of time wouldn't cause the crayfishes to mutate. Hence, the 300,000 crayfish that have escaped are still fit for consumption. However, because the black fog couldn't be eradicated, the separation net couldn't be repaired. Therefore, another separation net has to be built 300 meters away from it. Right now, the black fog is expanding rapidly, and according to its expansion rate, it would threaten the second separation net in 72 hours and cause the danger of a second leakage. Thus, could the host please set off to the boundless sea realm as soon as possible to eradicate the black fog and control the spread of the crayfish, the system said gravely. Mag rolled his eyes in his heart. Even so, those 300,000 crayfishes were enough to give him a headache. Demons were not fishermen. This mission is urgent. And to ensure that the host would complete the mission smoothly, the host would receive the full set of recipes for cooking crayfish, which includes spicy crayfish, garlic crayfish, 13 spices crayfish, steamed crayfish, chilled crayfish, etc. Oh, it could work like this too. Mag's eyes lit up upon hearing that. All the mainstream cooking methods of the crayfish were included, and the spicy crayfish was his favorite. Furthermore, if he had this set of recipes, then he already knew how to deal with those 300,000 fugitive crayfish. As long as the thing tasted good, he didn't have to worry that there were too many of them. He only worried if there were too few of them. So, you don't want me to go? Irina asked Mag, who suddenly froze, with a smile. No, I have intended to go with you. Mag shook his head smilingly. There wasn't a choice now, as a trip to the boundless sea realm seemed to be inevitable. Besides, he also didn't want to let Irina go and risk her life on her own. So, he would take it as their family of 3 going to the Demon Islands for a vacation. Moreover, Mag also wanted to find out what that black fog was because even the system couldn't handle it. And it had also appeared on board before. Irina's light-type magic had a purifying effect on the black fog. Traveling along with her could save Mag a lot of trouble. Otherwise, there was no way for him to deal with the black fog with a sword alone. You better stay back in Chaos City and recuperate. Irina shook her head, but she was feeling rather touched. Let's depart the day after tomorrow. Before we go, let's get the night elves settled down first. I am not going to the Demon Islands to kill someone. Instead, I have something else to do, Mag replied smilingly. All right. Irina nodded gently after staring at Mag for a while. There was someone coming in, so she washed her hands and walked out of the kitchen. Mag wasn't an impulsive person, so she wasn't worried about him at all. Let me do it, mother. Rena saw her skinny mother scooping the porridge with difficulty just as she reached home. She quickly put down the takeaway box in her hands, and took the bowl and ladle from her. Why are you back, Rena? Didn't you say that you are going to have your dinner at the restaurant? Clarence asked Rena, feeling a little surprised. Boss taught me how to make the hot pot this afternoon, and he let me bring it back for you to try. We are not eating porridge tonight. We will be having hot pot, Rena answered with a smile as she put down the bowl and ladle, and helped Clarence sit down at the table. Then, she took out all the stuff that Mag let her bring back one by one. There was even a little stove at the bottom. Clarence looked at all the ingredients on the table, and anxiously asked Rena, "Why did you take so much food home, Rena? This is only your first day at work. This isn't very nice." Rena was also rather surprised that Mag gave her so many ingredients like duck intestines, tripe, and beef. These ingredients cost tens and even hundreds of copper coins on the menu, and they were all present on the table. Their total price was already over 2,000 copper coins. "Boss is a nice person, so don't worry, Mother. I will pay him back for this meal when I get my salary. Just take it that I am treating you to hot pot on my first day at work," Rena said with a smile, and placed the pot that she usually used on the little stove before pouring in the broth that she made in the afternoon. Then, she lit up the fire and reboiled the soup. "Yes, we have to pay him back." Clarence nodded before she suddenly had a hacking cough. "I have boiled this bone broth for the whole afternoon. Drink a little of it first." Rena swiftly poured a bowl of bone broth and passed it to Clarence before walking over to pat her back. "Mother's cough is getting more and more serious. I have to bring her to see a better doctor after I receive this month's salary," she thought with a heartache. The bone soup was of the perfect temperature. It had a mild texture, and the freshness of the soup exploded in her mouth, causing her lethargic taste buds to start coming to life. Even after she swallowed the soup, the fragrance of meat was still lingering in her mouth. "How is this soup so good?" Clarence lifted her head up to look at Rena in shock. Rena would often make some bone soup for her from time to time, but the taste of this bone soup was way better than that of the others she made. "Then have more of it. There's still a lot more left in the pot." Rena smiled when she heard the comment. Ever since her mother fell ill, her appetite had gotten worse. Even if she tried to come up with novel recipes, she would always eat very little, so she was surprised that this bone soup would be to her liking. "All right." Clarence nodded and continued to drink the soup. The bowl of soup was in her stomach within a few gulps. Rena saw that there was finally some color on her mother's pale face. She was delighted, and got her another half a bowl of soup. "Rena, have some too. It must have been very tough to spend the whole day learning recipes." Clarence pulled Rena over to sit and scooped a bowl of soup for her. After that, she seriously reminded her, "Your boss is a good person and his culinary skills must be very good. Since you're learning from him, you have to learn well. Don't let him down. Also, you have to be more hardworking in the restaurant. Do whatever you can to help. It's okay even if you do a little more. It's a blessing." I got it." Rena nodded seriously with a smile, and then said, "Let's start the hot pot since we've drunk the soup." The soup is about to boil over, because he had no idea how long he would have to stay at the boundless sea realm this time. Mag told Rena in detail about most of the recipes for the hot pot soup base, including how to make them, and even demonstrated it for her. He intended for Rena to be able to handle the entire hot pot section before he left so that the restaurant could continue its operations. Rena was very serious when she learned, and she also displayed a very good knowledge of spices. Even for the spices new to her, she could control the amount very accurately with her acute sense of smell. "Rena, you have to come over to the restaurant earlier tomorrow morning. I want to teach you how to make congee with pork and century egg." After the day had ended, Mag looked at Rena and said, "Be at the restaurant at 6 o'clock sharp." "All right. I will be here on time." Rena nodded even though she did not know why Mag was in such a rush to teach her the next recipe. After all, she had not completed learning how to make the hot pot soup bases. However, she did not ask too much. "You performed well today. I think you would be able to make a real hot pot red soup base on your own tomorrow. Go back and have a good rest, Mag praised with a smile. Her talent was really something that he could not help but be envious of. Back then, he endured all sorts of torture at the test field for the god of cookery just for this hot pot, but Rena simply used her miraculous nose to trash his achievement. Everyone left subsequently, and Gina also went upstairs to take a rest. Mag locked the door to the restaurant, and only the family of 3 was left inside. Let's go upstairs to take a rest too, Mag said as he watched the mother and daughter duo discuss the best way to eat a duck. Meow Ugly Duckling jumped down from the counter, and clung onto Mag's leg as it shivered. Its large eyes were gleaming with tears, making it look very pitiful. Father, do you think a duck should be roasted or stewed? Amy asked Mag. After that, she continued, I think that roasted duck is delicious, while Mother thinks that stewed duck is good. What do you think? Irina looked at Mag with the look. This is a tough question. Mag raised his eyebrow. He did not think that he still had to face such a difficult question after ending a day's work. On the one side was his precious daughter, while on the other side was his beautiful wife. How was he supposed to choose? Mag hesitated for a while. He looked down at Ugly Duckling, which was hugging his leg, and said, You choose a method. Meow Ugly Duckling retreated with fear. Its eyes flipped and its legs straightened as it played dead very realistically. It's dead. Amy squatted and poked Ugly Duckling's tummy with her little finger with a smile as she said, Then our supper's settled. Let's have a fat roasted duck. Meow Ugly Duckling came back to life immediately and stuffed its fat head into Amy's embrace as it meowed and licked her little hand, acting cute as much as it could. All right. Don't worry, Ugly Duckling. We weren't referring to you. You're still so small. We won't eat you up, Amy said with a chuckle as she held Ugly Duckling's head. Meow Ugly Duckling behaved as though it let out a sigh of relief. You have to grow up quickly so that you can turn into a big white swan and fly into the sky. Amy reached out to stroke the little winged pattern on Ugly Duckling's back. She sighed. Why haven't they grown out? Ugly Duckling nodded as though it had made a resolution. Amy turned to ask Irina, Mother, then how do you think a swan is best, roasted or stewed? I want to eat roasted swan. Meow Ugly Duckling fainted in Amy's arms. Afterward, Mag told Amy a little bedtime story, and she fell asleep quickly in Irina's arms. Just as Mag was leaving for the room next door, Irina, who was dressed in her pajamas, called out to him. What are you planning to go to the Demon Islands for? Do you remember the black fog that appeared around Borg? Mag whispered as he sat on the bed. Yes. The fog seemed a little strange. It had a scent that I naturally hate. Besides, the Tree of Life was once invaded by the fog in order to help me. However, there was a huge rain after that, so the black fog subsided a lot. The black fog was only completely removed after I worked together with the Tree of Life. Irina nodded. She still felt a little nervous talking about the black fog. This black fog might have appeared at the Demon Islands again. I want to go over and check it out to find out what exactly it is, then destroy it completely, Mag replied. She still had no idea where this group of mysterious powerhouses came from. Lantist was a country that existed on the Norland continent a very long time ago. However, a few thousands years ago, it sank. Mag told Irina about the history of Lantist, how they established a relationship, and their 3 promises in a summary. So, that was what happened. It means that you have a team of crack troops living under the sea and nobody knows who they are too. Irina nodded. Smiling, she continued, It seems like you have done quite well after you put down the sword and picked up the cleaver. I can't help it that I am that outstanding. Mag sighed. It was such a headache that he was so talented. Tisk, tisk. Irina rolled her eyes at him. Ah, yes. When you and Borg were in combat previously, I realized your holy light magic has a very good purifying effect on that black fog. Thus, you may have to go find that black fog first before you go for the kill, Mag continued. The holy light could purify the black fog. Irina was a little surprised to hear that. Obviously, she had heard that for the first time. Yes. You hated that ghost's aura, so it should feel the same about you too. It is a mutually antagonistic existence. Mag nodded. All right. I want to find out what that is too. How dares it contaminate the tree of life? Irina nodded in agreement. Early next morning, Mag was woken up by the alarm clock. He went to pull open the curtains as he rubbed his eyes. Looking out at the still dark square, he was greeted by a scene of white as it snowed again last night. Mag lowered his head and saw a figure in a thick jacket walking around downstairs. She was even stomping her feet every now and then, making a series of footprints in the snow. Why is Rena here so early? Mag had set the alarm at 5:40 am, and he had arranged with Rena to meet at 6 am. Judging from the footprints on the ground, she should have been here for a while. Mag changed his clothes and went downstairs to open the door. Come in, Rena, he said to Rena, who was huddling and pacing around. Ah! Rena looked up and was taken aback to see Mag standing at the door. She quickly stood up straight, and greeted Mag. You are up. Let's go in before we talk. It's cold out there. Mag stepped to a side to let Rena in before closing the door to shut the cold wind out. The temperature out there had to be about 10 degrees below zero. Even he couldn't help but shiver when he opened the door, and this silly lass had been waiting out there. Phew! Rena stepped into the restaurant and exhaled a breath of cold air. It was so warm in the restaurant, and it seemed to be a completely different world from the outside. Didn't we set it at 6 am? Why are you here so early? Mag asked Rena, who was rubbing her reddened hands. I woke up when I heard the rooster crow. I came over because I don't know if it was already 6 am. Anyway, I've only waited for a short time, Rena said with a smile as she placed her hands behind her back. Her mother always told her that it was better to be early than late. Mag suddenly realized that the clocks were not popularized in this world yet. Both the clock and the magical watch cost over tens of thousands copper coins, and only could be afforded by the rich. Obviously, Rena didn't have anything that allowed her to know the time at home. You take a seat and warm up first. I'm going to wash up first, Mag said to Rena before he went into the kitchen. He smashed a few pieces of raw ginger and threw them into a pot of boiling water before adding 2 pieces of molasses and covered the pot. Then, he went upstairs to wash up. Rena pulled out a chair, sat on its edge, and rubbed her hands that were frozen red. The temperature in the restaurant was very comfortable, and her body soon recovered her senses. Soon, Mag came downstairs and Rena quickly stood up. Have a seat. Mag gestured for her to remain seated, and went into the kitchen. He came out with a bowl of molasses and ginger tea. Drink some of this ginger tea to chase away the cold. Tea, thank you, boss. Rena took the bowl of ginger tea, feeling very flattered. The aroma of the molasses and the ginger greeted her along with the steam, and the terracotta bowl was warm in her hands. Knock on the door in the future even if you have come early. Don't wait outside. Your hands are meant to cook, we can't let them freeze, Mag said with a serious expression. Rena nodded. Her heart already felt warm even before she drank the ginger tea. Take a seat and drink it. It will be almost time for us to cook the congee with pork and century egg after you are done, Mag said with a smile before he went into the kitchen. Rena sat down again and used the spoon to scoop up the red ginger tea. She blew at it before drinking it. The ginger tea that was still hot was a little sweet when she first sipped it. After she swallowed, the spiciness of the old ginger was instantly released, and burned its way down to her stomach from her throat. Then, the warmth began to spread throughout her body. This ginger tea is so delish. Rena's eyes lit up, and she continued to drink one spoonful after another. Her body, which was frozen from standing in the cold wind, began to warm up from the inside out. Her entire body was warm, and there were even beads of sweat on her forehead. Rena swiftly removed her jacket after drinking the ginger tea as it was simply too warm. Moreover, it was a warmth that spread from the inside out. Rena put the chair back where it was before going into the kitchen with the bowl she used, and cautiously said, "What should I do now?" Mag took the bowl from Rena and placed it into the dishwasher at the side as he said, "Leave the bowl. We will be cooking breakfast for the Aiden Squares cleaners now. They have to start their cleaning jobs in the cold at 4 a.m. every morning, so we will be cooking them a helping of piping hot congee with pork and century egg to replenish their calories and energy." "You are such a good man," Rena commented sincerely. Ding! Good person card +1. The system's voice sounded. Mag's mouth twitched as he tried to keep his emotion in check. Smiling, he said, "All right, let's get started. We got to get the congee ready before 6:30 am. This is the time that I have set with them for breakfast."